Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Next Gen Racing European GT3 series as hosted using the Assetto Corsa Competizione sim racing game as on the PC. Tonight marks the opening round of the season, a season truly hyped and a lot of spectacle surrounding it, and over the course of 2021 we are going to have 50 drivers all competing to see who is the best of the best over the course of multiple rounds of racing, and it's going to be all brought to you here live on the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel, Facebook page, and also my own, and I'll come on to myself in a minute, my own Twitch channel. But the schedule for tonight: British Summertime or UTC +1. Getting the show underway now. At 25 past 7 this evening, we'll be getting underway with the driver's briefing, which will be taken away by a member of the Next Gen Racing stewarding team. Then at half past the hour, at 7:30 in the evening, we'll get underway with qualifying, a 15-minute session to determine who will be lining up on pole, and then we'll get underway with the race start at 7:45, a 75-minute race with an all-important mandatory pit stop, but we'll come on to that a little bit later. And then once the race concludes, we'll be giving you some post-race podium interviews with our podium finishers. Now, your commentary team today is brought by solely myself. My name's Paul Walsh. You may also know me as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And as I say, I'm broadcasting this live on the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel, on their Facebook page, and also on my own personal Twitch channel, TX141 on Twitch. Still, enough about myself. Let's talk a little bit about the circuit. So tonight's opening round will take place at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. This is based in Montmeló, Catalonia, Spain, and as we can see on the graph here, or indeed on the diagram here, we have got a grand total of 16 corners. We are running the 2019 layout, so we do not have the revised turn 10 hairpin because we are running the balancer performance specification for the 2019 GT3 series. But as you can see, Barcelona Catalunya involves three main sectors. We have Sector 1, which runs all the way from the start-finish straight all the way down to the entry point to turn number 4, the high-speed sector in terms of average speed out of the three sectors. All about nailing the turning through medium-speed sweepers and building up the speed in the run to Sector 2. Sector 2 running from the entry into turn 4, the Repsol corner, all the way up to the entry into turn 10. That's where the sector line concludes. That sector being the medium speed sector, which is more focused on medium speed handling, particularly second and third gear and fourth gear in turn 9 will be critical. And in the final sector, Sector 3, starting off the braking zone into La Caixa at turn number 10, although I've probably mispronounced that. The turn 10 hairpin, the original variant of it based on the Formula 1 circuit. And that takes us all the way through to turn 16, the Catalunya corner, which takes us onto that start-finish straight to complete the lap and go again, with Sector 3 having the lowest average speed of all the sectors, given the fact we've got that very nasty chicane of turns 14 and 15, which is slow, and you've got to be very careful in these GT3 cars not to hit the curbs too hard, otherwise you'll be launching the car and losing the rear, particularly if you're in a mid-engine rear-wheel drive drivetrain car. But as we say hello to all of you in the live stream chat here, whether it be Viva Flowers on YouTube, alternatively Patrick Dufour, or we've got Martin Brewer there on Twitch and Zeronic on Twitch as well. We're glad to have you all here tuning in today, and if you do have access to the chat, do not be shy, feel free to say hi and let me know how you're doing and how hyped you are for tonight's racing and who you're going to be cheering on, as that is the track. And now let's come down to the rules. Now, in the rules of tonight's race, we only have one rule, and that is there is a mandatory pit stop which will require a tyre change and fuel, 1 litre of fuel minimum, and this is inside a 10-minute pit window. So all of our drivers are required to make that one mandatory pit stop, and essentially within that time they can change tyres as well. They are required to change tyres, but if they want to do multiple stops, that's up to them, but they do have to make that one mandatory pit stop, and depending on their strategy, they may go for more fuel. Alternatively, they may fuel the car at -1 litre to go all the way from start to the end and then put the fuel in. So that leads to a lot of strategic variety, and we can expect it is going to be a tricky one for our drivers today, given that Catalunya is a circuit that takes no quarter when we consider just how twisty and turny it is, and at the same time as well, it's one of those circuits which can catch a lot of drivers out. Those are the rules. We also do have our standard stewarding rules with example to no push to pass and things on those lines, but you'll be used to that if you've watched any other sim racing series, alternatively any live GT3 series or touring car series or Formula 1. So standard FIA style rules apply, and we do have a dedicated stewarding team of 4 officials from Next Gen Racing on standby. They are in their own separate commentary box, evaluating the race as it progresses and making sure to dish out the penalties and warnings where appropriate, and they'll be doing that using the in-game race chat. But enough of me blabbering, we have our driver briefing in 10 minutes. Let's get down to the trackside and introduce some of our drivers and also take you around. So our drivers at the moment are currently putting in their final practice laps. We can see that we've got 15 minutes remaining of this practice session, but really it's only 10 minutes because all of our drivers will be required to come into the pit come the end of the next 10-minute window to then receive the 5-minute driver briefing, which we'll also be sitting in on, and you'll be able to hear what our drivers are being told and any special rules that are applying tonight with regards to certain track limits and whatnot. As we hear, where are the cheerleaders from Patrick Dufour in the YouTube chat? Unfortunately, they weren't in our sponsorship, and as a result, we weren't able to afford them. However, talking about sponsorship, I would like to take a brief mention to say thank you to the SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy, who we are running this series in partnership with. The SimGrid for helping us out with regards to hosting the races and also putting the word out there. And the SimGrid, for those who are in the know, or not in the know I should really say, is a website-based platform which provides a platform for multiple different series, particularly for Assetto Corsa Competizione in this instance, to be able to host different racing championships. Indeed, whether it's casual races or more serious professional races, of which we are looking more towards the professional here indeed, with Next Gen Racing, and you've also got other leagues such as RCI and whatnot you may have heard of. That's where the SimGrid will host them from, working in collaboration with us to host them on their platform. As for Coach Dave Academy, if you're looking for tuition on Assetto Corsa Competizione, then check out Coach Dave Academy, a fantastic website full of resources and indeed personal tutorship with professional sim racing and real-world drivers. Do check them out because it will help you improve with a little bit of investment. You never know where your times could go. You could go from being a slow snail to a superhero at the top of the grid. But still, coming away from our sponsors and back to the circuit today, we do have at trackside at the moment, as we're looking down the circuit at the moment, we have 46 of our 50 drivers attending as it currently stands. I have heard that we have one driver who is not participating tonight as far as I'm aware, but we are looking towards a pretty much maxed out grid here, which is going to be fantastic, and indeed having 40 plus cars around here in the GT3 class at Catalunya is going to be some tight and frenetic action all the way around, and we've got a whole mix of cars here as well at the circuit for your viewing pleasure. Now, it is worth pointing out that we have heard from Viva Flowers that we are having him cheer on M. Swenson. So let's find Swenson out on circuit right now. Here is Mia Swenson, the American driver right now from the Intruder Racing team, running around in the Ferrari there. The Ferrari in P16 in this practice session, making their way up towards turn 9 as it currently stands. And as they're making their way along here, you can see that mid-engine rear-wheel drive machine just charging around the circuit right now and getting acquainted and getting a feel is Swenson, and I'm sure all of our drivers are, but getting in that final practice and that final little bit of warm-up information. But the Ferrari 488, they're looking absolutely fantastic with a rather fetching livery from the IRT team, or the ITR team as it would seem, as the branding would appear on the side of the car. We've also got Patrick Dufour on YouTube, who is cheerleading on Jay Lodier, and I believe that's Julian Lodier, and I'm probably butchering surnames by the way, so feel free to correct me for next time because I'd like to get things fixed. And we can see the French driver here in the Porsche 911 RSR making his way out of the pits and down towards turn 1 right now, and as he's making the way into the braking zone there. The difference between the two cars here, the Porsche being a little bit more of a stable car, perhaps due to the position of the engine versus the Ferrari, but still a very potent car is the Porsche. The Ferrari is the more aggressive car, whereas the Porsche can be a bit more of a dynamic car and perhaps not as aggressive through the corners, but we look forward to seeing what the drivers are able to achieve here today. As we say hello to Low Power in the chat as well, that's in the Twitch chat, and we've also got RSGTC Lemagorard, I've probably completely got that wrong, but with the Duckies in the Twitch chat as well. Now we do have all of our drivers here, and whilst we don't have time to introduce all of them, I did have the chance to catch up with a number of the drivers down in the paddock as they were getting ready to go out on circuit today, and a couple of drivers I had a chance to briefly talk to. One in particular, Joshua Allen here, who's running in the McLaren 720S GT3. We can see he's making his way through turn number 12 right now and up towards 13, coming through his favourite sector on the circuit as I'm to gather, or at least the fact he enjoys this sector compared to others he was mentioning. He likes Catalunya, he feels as though that he's got the pace there for a top 10 result, but he's not sure why other drivers do not like Sector 3. He really enjoys the sector, particularly the chicane, and we're looking forward to seeing what the Balfour Motorsport driver can do there. The number 14 car, as he makes his way across that timing line there, a 44.0 being that practice lap, a nice respectable lap, and he goes on to another. Now we've also got Peelan, and as we look around the circuit, we will find Peelan very shortly for you. As I say, we've got a lot of drivers here. So as a result, we are just taking a look through. Here is Lucas Peelan, the Dutch driver here, making his way across the timeline to go on to another lap, running in the Audi R8 LMS there, the GT3 car, of course. The Audi being another mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, much like the McLaren 720S that we saw only moments ago from Joshua Allen here. But Lucas Peelan enjoying the car, and in going into tonight, what he was saying was that for Catalunya, he'd say it was a pretty great track. Lots of twisty and tricky corners, which make it quite a challenging circuit to be consistent and fast at. And indeed, the Audi R8, a very rotatable car through the corners, albeit one of the downsides of the Audi is it can be quite aggressive on its tyres here. So having the right setup and the ability to protect the tyres as a driver is going to be important. And whilst he's a bit upset there's not going to be too many overtaking opportunities, particularly because of the chicane in turns 14 and 15, he's looking forward to racing here and trying to get a good result. And the last driver who I had the chance to catch up with, and I believe a number of you in the chat will be cheering on tonight, is one Tobias Linden from the Swedish nation, Sweden, as we see he's making his way around for SLS Racing in the Aston Martin V8 here. And as he's making his way through turn 12 here, front engine rear wheel drive, the car's going to be a little bit pointed through the corners, not as much natural rotation unless he's tuned it for rotation here, but it's going to be very aggressive on the straights and will carry a lot of speed with that brutal grunt of the engine. But indeed, the AMR Vantage V8 here in the hands of Linden. Well, he was telling me that he's very nervous for tonight because this is effectively his debut in Assetto Corsa Competizione PC racing online. This is the first ever race he's going to do, but he's known to have raced in a number of other series on Gran Turismo Sport, and he's looking to transfer that knowledge, as well as it will take him, into Assetto Corsa Competizione. He's been putting in a good amount of practice as well, he tells me, so he's looking to just keep the car consistent and bring it home tonight. And wherever he finishes, so long as he gets the car home, he will be best pleased with himself. And we wish all of our drivers, including the three we had the chance to catch up with, all the best as they go into tonight's race. Now, as we look further around right now, one other driver I did briefly catch as he was getting in the car was Tony Hill, the British driver here, as he's just parked up. And again, Tony tonight, when I was speaking to him about his pace, he was saying that he wasn't feeling as though he was going to be on the pace in the Ferrari 488, but at the same time, what he does feel as though he's looking forward to tonight and seeing what he can achieve. It's a little bit of an unknown, and for a lot of our drivers here, tonight is all about an unknown. They're not sure what the competition is going to be like on the practice sessions that we had before tonight, the practice sessions being over the course of the last 24 hours really. The best times we've seen and really have been matched so far by the Swede of Pontus Carbon, the number 94 driver there in the Aston Martin AMR V8, as he makes his way up towards turn 4. The best times we saw were mid to low 43s in qualifying trim, and his best lap so far has been a 43.395, as we see an Audi there parked up on the apex of turn 4, or literally just coming off apex. And so that's what the target will be in qualifying. I think drivers will be trying to get themselves into the low 44s as a starting point. And to give you an idea right now, whilst you may not be able to see it, in terms of the practice times, we've literally got our top 10 in the 43s, and then P11 is the start of the 44s right now. That's how close it is to get into the 43s, and whoever can get themselves into the 43s should be on the front 5 rows. That's a guarantee. Whereas everybody else will be looking for a 44 out there, and in the race we'll be expecting drivers to achieve 44s and 45s with heavy fuel tanks. And as they bring that down, of course, the fuel down, that is, the lap time should improve, albeit they have to keep in mind that the tyre life may not last as long as perhaps they'd anticipate. Now, that's also a question as well. What are the weather conditions we're looking at? Well, at the moment, given the local time is an hour beyond where we are at this as it stands, well, in fact, we can actually see it's a little bit earlier in the day. My sincere apologies for that. We can see that it is 53 minutes to 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Spain, as visualised here. We've got track conditions optimum currently. The temperature local area is 28 degrees centigrade, and the track temperature is 35 degrees centigrade. Now, this means the track is hot, so tyre pressures will come up rather rapidly off of cold tyres, and it also means the track is going to be quite grippy by default, i.e. the track's going to bring those tyres up, and you'll find that the tyres will very quickly switch on, and it also means as rubber goes down, the track is going to get incredibly grippy for our drivers, and that means means they can really push these machines. They don't have to be as pensive, alternatively apprehensive about how they drive around here. Unless you're in a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, then it may be a little bit more of a concern. But given we have only got approximately a minute now before the driver's briefing is about to get underway, we'll very shortly be switching over to the driver's briefing, and then we'll be listening in. So we're just waiting for that to kick off, as we also say hello to GT Sport Montages on YouTube there, who's supporting Tobias Linden as well, and we've got Avanos, who's supporting Lois there, and I believe that is in reference to, as we take a look through our sheets at the moment, that's Loisinger. So Adrian Loisinger there being supported, the Swiss driver driving in the BMW M6 GT3. Now, to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, if you said, what is your favourite GT3 car? As commentator, for me, it is this machine because it just looks absolutely starting. The V8 engine with a twin turbo there, quite a wide car, but an aggressive car, and very fast on the straights, but a bit weaker in the corners compared to most, with front engine rear wheel drive as well. But we look forward to seeing what the Swiss is able to achieve, as I believe the driver's briefing is about to get underway. And we are just waiting for the driver's briefing to kick off, so we should very shortly get the heads up. Here we go. Over to Kevin Smith.
Good evening, drivers, and welcome to Next Gen Racing. For anyone who hasn't raced with us before, welcome to our community, and thank you for coming to participate. As far as rules go, there is no in-game chat to be used at all during qualifying or race. Stewards will be stewarding during qualifying and the race session. If you do cause a collision with a car, let the car take the position back at a safe moment on track if possible, to obviously avoid a higher penalty. And if you are taken out, please hold your brakes, just to avoid you rolling across the track or into anyone else. And I believe that is everything. There will be a short wait on the grid just for our commentator and broadcaster to run down the grid after qualifying. And if anyone has any questions, please put them in the general chat now. Thank you.
Now we're getting...
yeah, that's a good one, Niels. There will be no RTG or return to garage during qualifying unless the car is literally undrivable and it's totally wrecked. Apart from that, please do drive it back to the pits for the repair. Once you are in the pit lane and have passed the speed limiter line, you can RTG then, but not out on track. Eric, incidents, there will be a post-race student instant form which you can fill out for any incidents which aren't picked up by the live stewards during the race. There is one mandatory pit stop inside a 10-minute pit window which requires fuel and tyres as well. And if that's everyone done with the questions, good luck everyone, have fun, and keep it clean.
Okay there folks, that is the driver's briefing complete, and now all of our drivers have 1 minute before they get underway with qualifying. So as you heard there were some questions raised with regards to the mandatory pit stop window, and we had that confirmation from Kevin Smith that there is that 10-minute window where there is the mandatory tyre change plus also 1 litre of fuel to go in the car. And I should clarify that the 10-minute pit window will occur at the midpoint of the race. Everybody has been informed of that in advance. So in a 75-minute race, it will kick off that window at the 30. What would be, if I remember correctly, my maths is probably absolutely terrible here, it would be the 35-minute window and then extend up to the 45-minute window, or approximately around there. But everybody are looking forward to get racing, and Instance will be live tracks. We've got those live stewards as well, and I also have access to their briefing documentation and the discussion, so I'll be able to bring you any updates regarding penalties or stewarding decisions as they go through the race. Of course, as we say hello to Vampy Peanut in the YouTube chat as well, and we really are just counting down. Now, I suspect we should really see the Aston Martins do quite strong here, but also the mid-engine rear-wheel drive machines should also have a good run around the circuit. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying is about to kick off, and we are just going to be right back as the drivers head out onto the circuit. Alrighty then folks, as everybody's starting to make their way out the pit lane then and down towards turn 1, it's going to be a case that in this 15-minute window with drivers not being permitted to return to garage, lap time is going to be critical and circuit time is going to be key as well. And as we said previously, the target time for our drivers will be in the 43s for pole, and we can see already that Atkinson just leading a good number of drivers around the field there in the Bentley as we jump down to the driver as he makes his way into turn 4. Now the Bentley is a little bit of an interesting car. It's known as the Boatley quite affectionately within the ACC community because it does look quite chunky, the British machine there, and it does look like a boat from a distance, you could argue. It has a tendency to be very heavy under braking, but it also provides it with great cornering stability. But of course that heaviness and the front engine nature, front engine rear wheel drive, does mean that the car has a tendency to understeer through the corners, and that's what we'll be seeing the Bentley drivers perhaps struggle a little bit through corners such as turn 9 here, where you've got an uphill sweeping right hander which is 3rd or 4th gear. We should see the car just drift a little bit off apex naturally compared to the mid-engine rear wheel drive cars such as the Porsche and the Ferrari we see ahead of Atkinson right now. But indeed all of our drivers getting really in tune with their cars, getting clocked in. But we see Yun here making his way into the final corner to begin his lap, and we jump on board with the Dutch driver here as he makes his way into a qualifying lap. And let's take you around the lap then in the Mercedes SLS AMG machine. So charging all the way down towards turn 1 here, he's going to have a little bit of traffic coming out the pit lane, but it's going to stay well clear. He's looking for the braking board, that 100 metre board, coming down through the brakes to 3rd gear there before turning into the apex and then flexing back to the left-hander of turn 2 before building up that speed. Now it's all about going from left to right here through turn 3. It's an extended sweeping right, but he's got to be confident to get on that throttle as soon as possible to charge out the corner and then build up the throttle, build up the gears. Now that's the end of sector 1. Coming down hard on the brakes now into the Repsol corner of turn 4 here, and you can see he's gone for an early apex so he can get on the power as soon as possible. The rear end there just sliding a little bit on turning, a bit of oversteer there before coming into the braking zone for the turn 5 hairpin here, the downhill left-hander hairpin where he rides a little bit the apex curve there just to raise the car up and get some extra rotation off the right-hand tyres before now coming down through 6, braking zone of 7 and 8 awaits here. Coming down here, he's got to be very strong on the brakes coming through 7 and then fly uphill through 8, making sure you use a bit of the curve there of turn 8. Now coming up into 9, you've got to be about confidence here. He's just going to lift off the throttle, a light dab of the brakes perhaps, but he goes a little bit wide, has to collect the car together, so it wasn't the perfect line there, but Yun's still got a good amount of pace through the corner. Now coming into a turn 10 hairpin, going into sector 3, braking at the 100 board there, coming down through the gears quite aggressively, but keeping it together very nicely. Now coming through 11 and 12, the left into right combination, 12 of course being that uphill right-hander where you haven't really got a marker to know when to get on the throttle, but he nails it in getting on the throttle in the end, uses the full width of the circuit. Now into 13, a very gradual corner here, down into 2nd gear. He'll try and build up the throttle a little bit before the chicane here, probably coming down into 1st gear. We heard a brief brief downshift there, and now coming out of the chicane into turn 16 he comes to complete the lap. And this is a solid lap to start with from the Dutchman as he comes across the line here. And what's it going to be from Niels as he comes across? It is going to be a 1:45.1. It's a good opening lap, but already drivers are going faster, and Lardiera from France doing a very good job there of setting a 44.2 in the Porsche 911 as he comes across the line. But we've got an even faster lap from Swenson, the American driver here, and now we've got our first 43, a 43.8, and that is from Alan, the British driver here. He said he was feeling confident tonight, and the 720S showing its confidence there with a 43.878 on his opening lap. Now, of course, remembering that he does have the mid-engine rear-wheel drivetrain here, it does give him the extra rotation through the corners, but that does come at the cost of rear tyre wear. As we see, he's been pipped to provisional pole by Field here, the Swiss driver, who's running in the Porsche 911 with a 43.584. So we're already into the mid-43s, and that's after one flying lap. And our drivers will have multiple flying laps. They're going to have at least 4 more flying laps based on our personal experience. And we can see that Field making his way through at turn number 4 right now, and absolutely flying in that Porsche using the full track width there, and you can see how he's got 2 wheels still on the inside of the white racing lines, which means he's obeying the track limits using the full width and having full confidence on the beam pedal there, on the gas pedal, the accelerator, to be able to come out of turn number 3 and up into 4 with full attack. Now, meanwhile, looking a little bit further down the order right now, we can see that Quizma, the Finnish driver here, in the Aston Martin from Random Racing team name. Well, that's a bit of a random team name there as well, but you can see currently in provisional P11 with a 44.547. And I must be honest with you right now, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 2 drivers in the 43s. That's Field and Allen in P1 and P2. Meanwhile, we've gone from P3 all the way down to what is a P15. It's 44s, and then from P16 further down, we are in the 45s right now. With Yun leading in P16, although he's just been pipped out. As we see, we've got our third 43 in the form of what is Field. Well, actually, that's not Field there, that's Alan, Field and Lardiera, as we see that Swenson has also improved. But we see Quizma improving to P5 with a 44.0. They're doing a very good job in the British Racing Green Aston Martin, albeit with some rather fetching purple wind mirrors there as well. That's going to be getting a lot of eyes on the car. As we look a little bit further back down the order, we can see in P16 right now is Jagoud, the French driver here, Clement, making his way up through turn at number 12. And we can see in that Ferrari just trying to find himself a little bit of clear place on the track right now, just giving himself some space, and I think it'll be critical. He does have the Aston Martin in front of him, and I think that's actually, I'm not sure who that is in front of him. I think that might be Linden, although it doesn't look like it's Linden's car, as they make their way through turn number 16 and onto a lap here. And I think Jagoud is going to be a little bit inconvenienced as he goes onto another lap here. He will have the tow coming down the straight. He improves to 44.3, and that's a very impressive improvement immediately, but there's a lot for him to deliver as he continues to push around the circuit. And as they make their way through turn number 1 once again, and for those who are wondering, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the driver's briefing, why we couldn't hear the drivers, it's only for our driver's steward, which is Kevin Smith, to be able to be heard. All our drivers had to voice their questions via a Discord chat. We'll try and fix that for next time so you get a bit more visibility of that, but that's why you couldn't hear the drivers there, because they weren't allowed to speak. It's a silent channel. But coming back to things at hand right now, we can see that qualifying is definitely intensifying. Provisional pole still held now by Lardier, the French driver here with that Porsche 911. He's only holding on, I should point out, by 0.04 of a second ahead of Mathis was, the French driver here as well, also in the Porsche 911, making his way down towards turn number 10 as it currently stands. And indeed, it's a long run distance down into turn 10, but it's not that long a run from 9 to 10 when you're actually in the car, as we see drivers getting out the way here with half the qualifying session complete. And as more rubber goes down, of course, the grip available to our drivers out on the circuit will improve, and there will be questions to be answered in terms of who is going to be in that top 10, or indeed on the front 2 rows. As we see, we do have a little bit of a change of an order. We have now got Chris Zuger, the Swiss driver here from CHF Motorsport, making his way up into provisional P3 of a 43.566, literally pole to P4 right now, only separated by 0.2 of a second. That's how tight it is in the battle for pole. But there is a recurring theme here. You can see the top 5 positions in the top left-hand corner of your screen being held by Porsche 911s right now, and the Porsche being very strong here at Catalunya in qualifying trim, but we will wait and see how strong it is going to be in the race, of course, and whether anybody can throw a spanner in the works to the dominance of the Porsche machinery, as we notice that our fastest non-Porsche driver is Pontus Karbom, the Swedish driver here, making his way out of what was at the time turn at number 2 and up through 3 and making his way around to the end of sector 1 right now. The Aston Martin driver going a little bit wide there out of turn 3, and I think we'll be picking up a track limits violation penalty there as he makes his way into a turn at number 4, riding very high on the apex curve there, and you can see the line just a little bit disorientated because of his run off at turn 3, and he's just trying to collect it back together. He's still got 6 minutes remaining. He's still got the best part of 3 to 4 laps if he wants to try and get himself up the field and perhaps onto the second row. As we look down the order right now, and what I can tell you is that Peelan by comparison in the Audi right now down in at P40 with 146.2, and really our slowest laps as it currently stands have been set by the looks of things Jesse Monrose, and Monrose here in the Bentley coming into the pits right now, the French driver on what was a 47.6 is best lap so far, but again that just goes to show you how tight the field is. Over 45 drivers who have set a time so far, literally from first to last in terms of lap times. It is a 3-second gap, and that is tiny in the grand scheme of things over 40 cars if you split that up into chunks. Even more so as we see de Klerk make his way down towards turn number 1, Eric de Klerk, and the Dutch driver here in the Audi, of course, a rather fetching Audi there indeed, looking very aggressive and going through turns 1 and 2 in a rather consistent manner indeed. As he comes through 3, you can see just how much rotation he gets through the car on the exterior camera there as he comes up through the corner, and that just goes to show you how the drivetrain layout and also the ability to rotate the Audi so nicely through the corners comes in hand. But of course the Audi having those downsides of the fact it can be quite a challenging car to get used to, and it is quite aggressive on its tires. As we see, we do have an off just ahead of de Klerk there going into turn number 5, the driver rejoining very gradually, and we'll try and see who that Aston Martin driver was for you. And I'm not sure who that was, but what I can tell you in terms of Aston Martin drivers, we've got Linden right now who's on a 45.6 so far, just avoiding Allen as he returns to the circuit coming out of turn 3, or more so Allen just taking his time returning to the circuit and returning in a safe manner. But the Swedish driver here just making his way through turn 4 right now and having a good qualifying session, albeit all the way down in P36, but still having a consistent one, and his lap time's not far from improving and giving him an opportunity to get into the top 30. He's only out of the top 30 by 4/10 of a second right now, and we really do have a huge competition on for the top positions right now, or even just getting into the top 20. The gaps between drivers from P10 all the way down to P30, well, P10 and P30 are only separated, folks, to give you an idea, by a second. That's how tight it is. We've got 20 drivers within a second of one another, but we see as Linden makes his way down towards turn 10 and we switch away from the Swedish driver that we see Romain Delcamine, the Belgian driver here, making his way through to turn number 7, while the lower placed Porsche drivers out of our top ones, in fact the lowest of our top 5 Porsche drivers, and indeed our top 5 out on circuit, and perhaps the most vulnerable to an upset here when we've got this Porsche dominance, although we can see that Delcamine being held up a little bit by the BMW in front of him as he's making his way down towards turn number 10. As he's charging down towards the corner here, of course, we're just checking in with the stewards whether we've got any immediate reports. Nothing so far, so everything clean so far, as would be expected, and we're happy to see in qualifying, of course, but everybody continue to make their way around with only 3 minutes to go. So now literally our drivers will be on their penultimate lap, if not starting to get ready for their final lap. But you can see that Delcamine getting held up quite heavily, but we do have a 6th Porsche now up into our top drivers, and it is Lefloic, the French driver here, making his way down towards turn 1 and having set a 43.6, getting himself onto that 3rd row as it currently stands. But who is going to be the top driver here? I think it is going to be a Porsche front row, but at the same time I wonder if an Aston Martin or a McLaren or a Ferrari can squeeze in there, as we see Harikonen, the French driver here, Kevin Harikonen, making his way up towards turn number 9 in the Ferrari here, and it's looking very fetching. And as he comes out of the corner, goes a little bit wide there out of turn number 9. I think the stewards will just peer over that one and let him know that perhaps that's not a fair lap there, as he comes down into turn 10 and gets himself ready to go onto his final lap, building himself up. As we look a little bit further out and we see Bartel here, Ross Bartel from South Africa, making his way up towards turn 5 from the Grumpy Monkey Racing team here, and indeed he does look a little bit of a grumpy monkey on the side of the vehicle, but doing well to be in P15 in the Bentley as he's making his way through 6 and down towards 7 and being cleared by a number of cars there at traffic. And having so many cars out on circuit, it's finding the space out on track. That's what's going to be so difficult for everybody, but still our drivers continue around all the same, and we can see that Bartel doing a very good job right now of just getting this lap together and continuing to push around the circuit as quickly as possible, of course, on a flying lap right now. And I think trying to catch up to the toe of the driver in front to give him a little bit of a boost out of the final couple of corners, particularly out of turn 15 through to 16. And he has got, by looks of things, an Aston Martin ahead of him to use as a tow cable. In fact, that's a Mercedes AMG, and the Mercedes, I think that's Junior there, just moving out the way. Dave Junior, yep, that was indeed the American driver as he goes on to his final lap. Indeed, both of these drivers coming through to go on to their final lap. But we are going to try and jump on board with one of the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars to give you a fair comparison between what we saw earlier in terms of a lap, as we see Krelkamp just camped on the inside of turn 9 there, and I think just trying to stay out of the way of everybody, as all of our drivers now are going on to their final qualifying laps, if not getting set to go onto them. And indeed, we are going to be jumping on board with Lardiria as he makes his way through turn 2, and now he's going to be continuing around the lap. And this is a potential pole here. He is currently provisional pole with a 43.239. Can he improve here, the number 36 car? So coming down towards turn 4 here and braking down hard on the brakes, and as you see coming through, and notice how much rotation he gets on turn. You can see how the car's almost skidding around the corner, and that's because the rear end is open up, because all the weight of the car is located to the rear, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, of course, whereas Porsche would prefer it to be rear-engine rear-wheel drive, ideally with the old Porsches. But that weight transfer occurs very rapidly in the car, as we see him come through 6 and up into 7 here. And watch how he's going to skid the car over the apex of 7, and as he goes up through 8, it just looks so composed. I can tell you he's fighting the steering wheel in that cockpit right now as he makes his way up through 9, and you can see once again able to attack the corner aggressively there, as we see somebody has had an off. That looks like a McLaren or Ferrari that's had a major off. Was that Walker by chance there? Although we can see that Bartel is up into P5, and really right now that Lardiria is going through turn number 10. He's only got the best part of 6 more quarters to go. This is the end of qualifying. Can he improve and secure pole position right now as he makes his way through turn 12? Getting a lot of oversteer though, and you could see how the car started to give way on him, and he had to fight and lift off the throttle a little bit to get it together. As you see it go through downhill, and he gets it wrong, Lardiria, and that means he will not be improving here. It's the smallest things that make the difference in the Porsche, and you could see how it caught him out there. Just literally a little bit too much rotation as he's going to return to the circuit, but I think he is safe to take pole right now as his closest competitor, Voss, the Frenchman here, making his way through the final chicane. Can he improve off of 43.413 and take pole? I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll wait to see as he makes his way out of the final corner and across the timeline. What's it going to be from the Frenchman? It's not enough. He does not improve, so he's not going to take pole. What about Document? Well, he's already finished his qualifying lap, so he won't be taking pole. Indeed, I think all of our drivers right now have completed their qualifying laps, although some more drivers are still going around. Bartel there improving to P5 with a 43.548. The South African driver put in a phenomenal effort, and the highest placed non-Porsche driver of everybody, Ross Bartel. A fantastic job there to get himself onto the 3rd row provisionally. We are waiting for that countdown to occur, but he's going to be very happy with that as we look a little bit further down the order, and what we can see is Zuga parked up on the circuit. Indeed, a lot of drivers now getting out the way of those finishing current laps, and we are just waiting to have confirmation that qualifying has completed. 30 seconds to go, but I think it is going to be the case that Julien Lardiria from France in the Porsche 911 from GPX Racing has taken pole position for round 1 of this series, as we see there that all of our drivers are being asked to now return to the pits and get ready for the race. And we are just going to be right back very quickly as we get set. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you already want a little bit of drama, I can give you some straight away. We did have a disqualification from qualifying the number 135 car, as I just checked my notes here in terms of the briefing. We're just trying to find out who that was. Give us 2 seconds here because we've got all the driver numbers. So that's Nicholas Tardioli here. Will be starting at the back because he used return to garage in qualifying. So the Ferrari driver there from France already picking up a disqualification for returning to a garage. That's the only incident that occurred in qualifying, and now we are waiting to get underway. We have got 3.5 minutes to go, and it will be the case that we have the opening parade lap stroke warm-up lap where Lardira will take us away, and then he will run us all the way round out of the final corner in the dual line formation, and then we get underway with the green lights, and it will be go, go, go. Now, in terms of this race, what have it been? 75 minutes long, of course, as we just take a look on board with the French driver right now, and he's going to be thinking, right, what do I have to do to get away from the other Porsches around me? We know that we're the top 4. We are the most competitive car here with the optimum car by looks of things. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Frenchman's mind as to how he nails it down into turn 1. And he'll want to try and catch everyone out when he decides to go. Meanwhile, looking down in P5, we've got Ross Bartle there, the South African driver, who will be looking to try and get the jump on 1 or 2 of the Porsches. As we see there that we have got J Hig 011 on Twitch, who's saying, come on Atkinson, supporting Atkinson. And, well, JP Atkinson, we're also hearing, is the tallest Scotsman on the grid from GTL and Mr. Fish there in the Twitch chat. But we will wait and see as we take a little further look down at the order, and some drivers with a lot of questions. And really, Bartle, what can he do to get in the way of, say, Delcamino and Field as well, as they all charge down towards turn number 1? It's going to be on this man in order to cause an upset with the Porsche drivers and get that Bentley as far up the order as he possibly can. But as we jump a little bit further out, of course, all of our drivers are waiting to go. We're just going to try and find Atkinson. So Jonathan Atkinson here, the Scottish driver, the tallest Scottish driver on the grid, as we've been informed with that very interesting fact from our Twitch chat there, and we're grateful for it. Qualifying in P22, and indeed in the Bentley there, we're looking to have a solid race. The Bentley being a strong race car, perhaps not as strong in qualifying, but definitely a strong race car, and that should be shown at Catalunya here. We can see on the weather forecast that the track temperature is still 35 degrees centigrade, no change in local temperature, and we are expecting sunshine for at least the next 15 minutes. The weather forecast is showing clear skies, and that means we are looking at a dry race, at least for the opening, what would be the opening fifth of the race, but we will wait and see how that evolves over time, as we've got Chris Wall there supporting on Tony Hill. And, well, Tony qualifying in P32 in the end, the British driver driving in the Ferrari 488, and we'll be waiting to see what Tony can do, of course. Indeed, as we look in the cockpit right now, just waiting to get underway here. And indeed, with that Ferrari, he's surrounded by a McLaren in the form of Coloridis, and he's also got a Warren, and he'll be looking to try and pull a little bit away. He won't want to get caught up behind the Bentley in P34 of Moustakis, as that could prove a little bit troublesome. He'll want a clear run on track here. And indeed, we expect that Ferrari is going to be quite aggressive, but if he's able to keep it under control, you never know what he'd be able to do. Now, you'll see that some cars will be raising up and down on the grid. For the uninitiated, that means that drivers are currently finalising their tunes on the cars, and they will be making some last-minute tweaks. Don't worry, it's not as though the cars have suddenly got some of those very fancy hydraulics and they're trying to low-rider their way around Catalunya. It's just something that you see within Assetto Corsa Competizione, and it's a sign that our drivers are making some tuning changes. But it will be Ladier and Vos who take us away for the parade lap, and then we will get underway with the dual line or the side-by-side rolling start as they come out of that final corner. Now, of course, in the warm-up lap, all of our drivers will be looking to get those tyre temperatures up as much as possible, and also gauging how they can get the best possible start. Remembering they'll be very close to one another, but on top of that as well, coming out of the final corner, if they're starting on the final corner, which will be towards the back, that could cost them a little bit of time or just cause them to have a bit of a slower start, and they'll need to be wary of that, or be sizing up if somebody in front of them is starting on the final corner. That could give them an advantage. Or the driver behind, as we say hello to Disco Duck on the YouTube channel as well, who's saying go. He's excited to go. I'm excited for us to get underway. Indeed, now we get underway with the rolling start. As he makes his way down towards turn 1, you're going to see all of our drivers start to gradually weave from side to side here in order to get some temperature in the car. Doing so very gradually, of course, here, and everyone will want to make it safely away before they then start to do the full weaving. As we see Miraglia making his way down now in the Lamborghini here, and indeed we haven't seen too much of the Lamborghini. The P17 driver has qualified, the Italian driver in the number 93 car here. The Lamborghini being up there in the midfield, in fact, doing a very good job of getting it up there, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to do in the Huracan as he makes his way. I believe it's actually the Gallardo. Gallardo, Huracan, you get tripping over them every so often, but we can see that Lamborghini driver here from the MCW Racing team making his way down towards turn 1 right now and just getting those brakes primed a little bit, and everybody will be looking to get around there in sensible order here. And you won't want to overheat the brakes during the parade lap, as we see Hornemann here, the German driver Ingo Hornemann, qualifying in P20. We've got a good number of Porsches in this field this season, but we do have the variety cars as well. And whilst the Porsche does seem to have been the strongest car, as everybody is just tripping over one another a little bit coming up through turn 3 here, as they're all concertinaing together in the warm-up, and drivers trying to get as much temperature in the tyres, almost coming to a standstill at some points, as we see Conor Hughes here from AKM Racing UK, the number 95 driver in the Aston Martin V8 AMR, of course, making his way up towards turn 4 right now. Indeed, it is almost lights out and away we go, as we see Michael Paul here wishing on Joshua, saying good luck from mum and dad, and that is very nice to hear as well. And I believe they are cheering on Evie, Joshua Allen, they're cheering on, they're wishing on Allen all the best in the McLaren 720S, and one of the higher qualifying non-Porsche cars here, of course, in that P13 position. The number 14 driver here in the fetching red livery, making his way down through turn number 7 right now and getting ready to go. Of course, he does have another McLaren ahead of him in the form of Ben Walker here, the British driver, making his way right now up to turn number 9 here. And it'll be interesting to see what the McLarens do, because the McLaren is seen one of those chalk and cheese cars. You either like it or you hate it, or it's a Marmite car, if those of you who know of Marmite, the supplement to your toast. But it is one of those cars which you either love it or you're not going to like it, and particularly in Sector 3 it can be a very tricky car as soon as it touches a raised curve. But it seems as though Walker and Allen enjoyed that car very much, and really now they are just waiting to go. But speaking of waiting to go, it'll be the guy at the front here as they're starting to line up side by side, coming up through turn number 12 here, and we can see Ladier and Voss getting ready to go here, the two Frenchmen coming along through turn number 13. And we're going to take a very quick sip of water before we get underway with the racing action. Of course, hearts will be pounding at this point, and it will all be about who can get the best possible start into the first corner, as we see they come through turn 15, and now we'll wait for the green light. And it's lights out and away we go, and we get the season underway with Lardier getting the best start of anybody out of our top 4 as they all make their way down towards turn number 1. You can see he started over on the right and decided to force all the drivers to come over before reacting to come over to the left hand side. But he's going defensive into turn 1 here, as we see a little bit further back. Well, we've got Voss trying to go around the outside. He's going to be on the inside for turn number 2. Can he hold on, Voss? Well, it looks as though Lardier got the better run out the corner as everybody concertinas into turn 2 here. And we look a little bit further back and we can see the Delcom holding on to P3 right now. But Bartel not being dropped straight away and holding on to P4, doing a very good job to hold on to the position as it currently stands. In fact, we have got all of our drivers' grids being updated right now, but you see Bartel definitely holding on to that P5 as our statistics screen is being updated as it currently stands. But all of our drivers making it safely through turn 1 as we see it, and as we take a look at our stewarding right now, nothing being reported in for the turn 1 as all our drivers are now coming down towards turn number 6 here, and our timing charts are being reapplied here, and we actually see Bartel holding on to that P5 position, as Faulkner meanwhile in P8, the British driver here from the Distinct GG team here. Faulkner, the British driver, up into P8 and holding on to the position for the time being. But the one driver who has lost out massively at the start is Ben Walker, dropping all the way down to P16. And indeed, Joshua Allen capitalising on it up into P10. So the lead McLaren driver right now is Allen, and he's trying to make moves. He's moved up 3 places on the open lap so far, as we've got a spin there coming out of the corner. Now, who is that who's been spun? I believe that looked to be, I think it was Junior there, I'm not 100% sure. Somebody was spun on the apex of turn 10 there, and we will find out in a brief while what's happened. But we see Zuger here being knocked a little bit wide going down into 13. I think there's just a bit of contact between himself and Faulkner as he comes down through the corner here, and as a result he'll be dropping down to P8 as they come around to complete lap number 1. So after one lap it is still Lardier leading from Voss, as Voss is behind him. Then it is Field in P3, and then breaking away from Ross Bartley in P4, Lefloic in P5, and then we've we've got Faulkner in P6, followed by Zuga in P7. Then we've got Carlbom and we've got Allen battling for P8 right now. Carlbom on the inside, the Swede battling with the Brit as the Brit tries to go all the way around the outside into the inside of turn 2. Can the McLaren get it done? There's a little bit of contact here, but the Aston Martin driver holds on. It's brilliant side-to-side races so far. Both drivers showing each other a lot of respect here as we see Carlbom still holding on for the time being. The Swede doing everything he can to keep Joshua Allen at bay as we jump on with Joshua Allen here, and you can get the onboard perspective right now from the British driver as he's got a face full of Aston Martin and he's got to find a way past the V8 in front of him. Now, what will be going through Alan's head right now, you're probably wondering? Well, given the fact we're only one lap into what is expected to be an extended race here, you're looking at a wide variety of laps. You're looking at least 30 laps, if not more. It is the case, I think, for Alan. He'll be thinking, right, I don't want to fight too hard with Carlbom because I don't want to lose the pace to the guys in front. Because you can see the guys in P7 upwards are starting to break away, but he's got to be mindful of the fact that he does have the better setup for the early part of the race compared to the Aston Martin, as he goes a little bit wide there and almost loses the car coming out of turn 9. Just a bit of dirty air there, losing him the downforce he needed to make turn 9 as aggressively as he wanted to as he comes down to the braking zone for turn number 10. But you can see Alan definitely trying to put the pressure onto Carlbom nice and early on and trying to force the Aston Martin driver into a mistake, but so far only making small mistakes of his own as we see Quasima the Finnish driver, making his way through turn 12 and up into 13 and holding off Junior for the time being as Junior is chasing after him. Now as they make their way through at turn 14 and 15, once again you can see behind them they've got Atkinson here, and remember Atkinson, the Scottish driver in the Bentley, literally throwing the car around and feeling very comfortable, the driver, as he makes his way out the final corner in P12 as it currently stands, but doing a very good job. As then we've got a sizable gap to the next part of the field, which is being split by Miraglia in P13 right now, and really the Lamborghini driver in a little bit of a no man's land. And we see a driver coming out the pits there, and I believe that is what is Chris Humphries coming. Well, Chris Humphries is in the pit right now. I'm not sure what's happened to Humphries. We will find out for you very shortly. But focusing back up, we've got a couple of drivers in the pits, Richard Jepp as well. As we look further down the order, a lot of drivers in the pits right now, I think for damaged cars, but we see where people have picked up damage. We have got Yun, the Dutch driver, who's out on course right now in P38, and it's all gone very, very wrong. As we see Monrose has made a mistake. They're coming out of the final corner. We just saw that outside of our commentary box, and now coming down the start-finish straight and resuming the racing. Now looking further out, a lot of drivers falling victim, I would say, to incidents on lap 1, turn 1, or at least on lap 1. And we see Walker in particular with a crippled McLaren in P34. But let's look back up towards the front right now, as we do see that our battle for the lead is pulling away a little bit, and field is really the best of the rest so far in P3, as Voss and Lardia are disappearing up the road. And checking in with the stewarding so far, we haven't had anything with regards to incidents. I think the stewards are looking through what has happened, but we see that right now field holding on to that P3 position. And then a little bit further back we have got Lefloic, who's in P5 and trying to find a way to catch up to Bartel. Bartel, the Bentley driver, just gradually pulling away here. The South African doing a very good job versus Lefloic, the French driver here in the Porsche you're looking at, just not able to find a way to catch up to the Bentley as it currently stands. And the Bentley coming alive in the race trim, as we see Faulkner behind, of course, in the Ferrari 488, doing a very good job of staying in touch with the top 5 as they make their way out of the corner. Now looking back up front, we can see that Lardia is being hounded by Voss here, and Voss the closest he has been since the start of the race, and he's going to be looking for the move into turn 1. Can Voss do it once again? Can he get it now this time? It's going to be the reverse of what happened last time around, but Voss has the door shut on him by Lardia, which Lardia is able to do. He's legally allowed to do that because there wasn't the perfect overlap on corner apex, but you can see that Voss is trying to get in the mind of Lardia. A little bit of a flash of lights as well as they make their way out of turn 3 and up towards 4 once again. The battle for the lead definitely not calming down completely. There's still some fires burning there. As we look back to P15, I can tell you right now that there's a battle in soon for P14. We've got, well, I believe that's Kilgren up ahead of Nowicki, who's in the middle of this pack, and then behind them we've got Delcom. Remember, Delcom started in what was P3 at the time. I think it was Delcom who was actually the driver who span out. Oh, goodness me, those contact between Nowicki and Kilgren as they made their way into turn 4, and that is a disaster there for both drivers. But what it does mean is that Delcom is now starting his recovery drive. He's up into P14 as he makes his way through the left-hander here, does the Belgian, and out of turn 5 he goes. But really, that is how it is all opening up right now, and Kraukramp coming out of turn 6 and into 7. The other one of the Grumpy Monkey Bentley is here, making his way through turn 7 right now as the South African, the number 23 driver, in P17 as it currently stands. Also, that will be P15 after the timing screen is updated come the end of Sector 2, and with him in that position right now, he's going to be hounded a little bit here, but indeed, the Bentley drivers showing that they have got good race pace as he makes his way down into turn number 10 once again. But he has got Horman behind him, and Horman will do everything he can right now, the German driver, looking very strong in the early portion of the race here in the midfield and trying to find his way up into P15 as they make their way through the corner. We can see that the track temperature has dropped by a degree, so the tyres when they come out of the pits will definitely take a little bit longer to switch on. That's not going to affect our drivers too much right now, as we've also got a little bit of a 1 km/h following wind right now, so that'll give our drivers a boost down the straight, but it also means those braking zones will just be a little bit rougher as they make their way down towards turn 1 once again. But meanwhile, up front, with 4 laps complete, we can see our race leaders. Well, they have now got Field trying to get into the mix. Our race leaders taking time off of one another, and you can see how Voss, under a lot of pressure here from Field, is Field going to try? Is the Swiss going to go for it on the inside? He doesn't find the space, and instead he makes Voss take to the middle of the circuit, costing him lap time. But we can see that Bartel getting ever closer. This battle for the lead really starting to ignite, but we have a whole pack of drivers behind. You can see all the way down to P8. We've got Calbom in P8 right now, who's literally chasing this pack. Any one of these top 8 could come home with that win, and then Joshua Allen only the best part of what is approximately 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds off of the hunt for P8, and therefore the hunt for the race lead as they all make their way now through the second sector. And Allen doing a good job of keeping Kuzma at bay. The Finnish driver not able to find a way past the British driver right now, and indeed the Ferrari versus the McLaren here, it is one that also the Aston Martin versus the McLaren, I should say. I think the McLaren has just got the advantage in the early stages, but we'll wait and see how the McLaren evolves over the course of the stintage, and it should be the case that the Ferrari comes alive here. But that's not a Ferrari behind it. Well, that is a Ferrari behind him. That's not an Aston Martin behind him. I think somebody's had an off somewhere. Alternatively, that is a lapped car, because that is not accurate at all as we see them making their way out. And I think actually that might be one of the drivers who had a disastrous opening lap being caught up behind him right now, as we look a little bit further down the order, and we can see that in P28 right now is Tim Williams, another one of the McLaren drivers, the British driver here from Team Sausage Dodgers. An interesting name, an interesting racing team name choice, but I'll say that it does stand out, making his way through turn 10 right now and chasing after Gagord as they make their way through the right hander of turn number 12. And as we look a little bit further down here, what I can tell you as well is that right now one driver who we didn't see, and actually thank you for pointing that out to us there, GT Sport montages in the YouTube chat, Linden jumping the best part of almost, I'd say 20 places almost in from his qualifying position all the way up to P17 right now, and just avoiding all the carnage. And indeed the SLS racing driver in P17 doing a fantastic job and starting to apply pressure on Horman here, the German driver ahead of him, as we ride on board and look back from Horman, who is in that P16 position here. We're looking at back from his car as it currently stands, and you can see how Linden not able to keep up through the flowing corners, but when he gets onto those straights and those acceleration zones, that Aston Martin really coming together. But he does have the pressure of the Ferrari behind, and indeed Nowicki will be trying to get past these two as quickly as possible here as they make their way in towards turn number 5 here. And you can see the different approaches between the drivers. You can see how Linden in the front engine rear wheel drive car has to take a much more gentle line into the corner, whereas Horman can be more aggressive and throw the car into the corner. And that's the difference between the car naturally wanting to understeer in the case of Linden behind versus Horman, who can oversteer naturally. He gets more rotation, so he can be that more aggressive and frugal with the throttle through the corner, whereas Linden has to be more cautious getting on the loud pedal and being dropped as a result coming out of turn 9. As we jump back to the wider cameras here, and we can see that Horman starting to pull away a little bit right now, and Nowicki catching up little by little and getting closer to the yellow Aston Martin as they come through turn 11 and up into 12. Now we do have a 15-second penalty who has been applied to Hughes here, and Hughes, to give you an idea, this is Conor Hughes, the P23 driver in the AKM Racing UK Aston Martin here, the number 95 car, and this is an incident on lap 1 involving himself and number 88, and it was classified as avoidable contact, and that was between himself and Moreira meanwhile all the way down in P31 and having a difficult race is the Portuguese driver. Stewart's decision there, and we do have a number of penalties starting to be applied, and we can see that Velkovsky has a stop and go 30-second penalty there, the Porsche driver in P40, and I believe that is most likely for what would be either track limit or an incident has happened very early on. But as all of our drivers are continuing to make their way around, and we say hello to Stefan Vessels in the YouTube chat, who couldn't make it tonight and was hoping to participate and will be participating later in the season, we can see that Mustakis right now under pressure from Hughes, making his way out of turn 3 and up towards 4. The Greek driver here who we haven't seen too much of in the Bentley as he makes his way down towards turn number 4 once again, and feeling that pressure is the Bentley driver here as they come through the corner and now charge up towards turn number 5. But of course, for Mustakis right now, he'll feel a little bit of comfort, and in fact that's actually Kellgren behind him. That is not Hughes. Kellgren has fallen behind. We could see that Hughes is the one trying to, Kellgren is the one trying to apply the pressure here to Mustakis, and not feeling too pressured right now, I would say, the Bentley driver, but the Aston Martin driver definitely trying to get a move on as they all make their way around to turn 9 once again. Now, meanwhile, up front, we haven't seen too much of our front runners, but what I can tell you is that Field is behind these guys right now, and we have seen the disappearance of Voss here, and I think Voss has had a major incident somewhere because he's all the way down in P12. We didn't see that with Voss, but he has dropped all the way down the order, and as a result of that, he's now down in 12, and we're just trying to find out what happened to Voss. We will see if we can see what happened. He seemed to have had an incident on a couple of laps back, in fact, where he just went off the circuit, and as a result of that, Voss right now all the way down in P12 and trying to make a recovery drive of it and trying to get back into the race as soon as possible. So Voss falling off the pace of our leaders then, and now it is the case that Lardier has got Field trying to chase after him, the two Porsche drivers, and Bartel up into P3 in the Bentley, but you can see our top two just a little bit away of Bartel right now, but Bartel standing strong there, albeit I think the tyre wear is starting to just creeping a small amount as they're now coming into the opening 13 minutes completed, as we see their Lardier getting it wrong, coming out 5, and this could be the opportunity Field has been waiting for. He's going to have the overspeed into turn 7, and as he comes up the inside here, will Lardier battle it? No, he decides to back out of it in the end, albeit he made it a bit difficult for Field. He stopped Field from getting on the throttle and taking the natural racing line through 8, but you can see now that Field up into the race lead, and he is now going to be trying to break away is the Swiss driver from CHF Motorsport as they make their way down towards turn number 10 once again on what is lap number 8. But going a bit deep is Field here, and there's a bit of contact from Lardier there, albeit I think Lardier just couldn't get on the throttle as much as he wanted, so it was a little bit of a bump for Field as Field had a bit of a dramatic turn 10, just going a bit too deep into the corner and having to stop the car effectively, and as a result parked the car there, although I think Lardier won't have appreciated that, and Bartel right now will probably be thinking to himself, okay Porsches, come back to me, just come gradually back to me please, as I'm all over the back of you, and Faulkner as well, Ethan Faulkner here, not too far back, he does have Lafloic and also Zuga chasing after him here in the battle for P4, but he'll be watching on. Indeed, these three will be watching on right now thinking, right, we can get back into this, but meanwhile the battle for lead, it continues, and we can see that Lardier really are losing out time right now, and in fact getting quite vulnerable to Bartel as they make their way into turn 1. I think Bartel could be on for a move come the next couple of laps. He'll be looking for it, the South African versus the Frenchman. Which one of them is going to emerge ahead in P2 come the end of the next 2 laps? I put my money on Bartel right now. He looks a lot more composed. Indeed, the Porsches now starting to hit a little bit of an early cliff in this race, looking very aggressive early on, particularly in qualifying, but now that Bentley behind looking the stronger of the two types of car as they make their way through turn 4 once again. Now down in P7 at the moment we've got Carbon, Pontus Carbon, the Swedish driver here, making his way out of 4 and up into turn number 5, as we see that Joshua Allen is behind him in P8 right now, chasing after him. Both drivers having gained from the fact that we saw Voss get it very wrong. Well, we didn't see him, we heard that he got it wrong out on circuit. And we're also going to be giving a shout out here to Karen and Graham Allen, who are Joshua Allen's grandparents, and cheering on their grandson. Well, that's lovely to hear indeed, supporting their grandson on all the way as he continues to race and makes his way around the circuit. And we're just checking in with the stewarding at the moment. No other stewarding updates as it currently stands, so it is the case that we've only had the one major incident and then a lot of drivers experiencing contact. I think our stewards are having to work overtime here to get things corrected, but what I can tell you is that Miraglia right now under a lot of pressure here, but I do believe that is a car trying to unlap itself through the field here, that Ferrari 488, and I'll just try and figure out for you who that is chasing after him, as I believe that may be the case that it is. As we take a look through, well, I'm not 100% sure who it is, but we can see Leusinger, the Swiss driver right now in P38. We saw him in the BMW M6 GT3. Not having a good time so far is Leusinger down in P38, but I think he knew going into this one it was going to be a difficult one for the BMW, but he's pressing all the same, and I think he was involved in some of the early carnage, but they're continuing all the same around on his lap right now, on lap number 8, and indeed a lap down on the racing leaders. In fact, 2 laps down on our race leaders, as we see that Field has got away from Lardier, and I think in fact that Bartel has now cleared into P2. Let's take a look back and see if we can see what happened. And if you just give us 2 seconds, folks, we should get the replay very shortly. Had he already got the move done at this point? No, yes, he had already got the move done. So I think the move had been done via a mistake which had happened from Lardier. So we will have to stay with this camera for the best part of 60 seconds. But you can see in the rear of your camera there how it was the fact that Lardier just seemingly dropping off the pace, I think made a mistake. And what I'm hearing in my ear actually is the fact he made a mistake at what was turn number 5. And that's what's given Bartel the ability to get up the order right now. So that's how it's changed and how Lardier is now down to P3. You're looking at footage from a minute ago right now as we are just watching this back to see what else happened, but nothing else did happen, of course, and we'll be getting back with the live racing very shortly. But whilst we are waiting for the live racing to come back to you, of course, you can see the Mercedes AMG. There are a lot of the backmarker cars who have made little mistakes here or just trying to find their way out of the way of other drivers. As we come back to the live timing screens right now, indeed the live racing, it is the case that we still do have our top, what would be our top 7 here, all chasing after our race leaders right now. But Field really starting to pull away, and I can tell you that Field, the Porsche driver who's leading, is the best part of 2 seconds away from Bartel. But we see here that Carbon and Zuga going side by side into turn 1 from the battle for P6. Zuga on the inside, Carbon on the outside here, but he decides not to try and cut back to the inside for turn 2. Instead, he cuts in behind Carbon here, he cuts in behind Zuga, does Carbon, in order to try and put some more pressure on the Porsche driver here. And you can see how the Porsche's really struggling here as they go deeper into this opening stint. They just seem to be perturbed. It's the little bits of tyre wear that seem to be upsetting the cars, and as a result now, it is the Aston Martins, the Bentleys and the Ferraris that are coming to life and chasing after the positions. But we can see that Dave Jr., meanwhile, starting to build up a little bit of pressure there on Allen ahead of him, but he has got the fast charging Voss who's trying to come back up through the order. The American driver here, Junior, having had a good start in that Mercedes AMG machinery here, the German machine, making its way through turn 7 as we currently speak, and you can see keeping it nice and consistent here, and the Mercedes looking very planted indeed and looking strong as he makes his way through turn number 9 right now. And looking at a little bit further back, we can see that we have got Latsos here just making his way out to turn 5 as that looks to be Hill chasing after him, but there's a back marker between the pair of them there. I'm not 100% sure who the back marker is currently. I believe that may be, but it's definitely not Hill there, but it looks as though they have got a McLaren that's between the two of them, and it is one of those instances where Hill is going to have to chase after Latsos, and he's going to have to find a way past a slower car in order to do so as they make their way down towards turn number 10 once again, this being on lap number 11 for these guys, starting to fall a little bit off of the leader's pace here, but they're still in the top 20, Hill being in P20, making his way around in the Ferrari 488. And even further down the order, we have got Conor Hughes here, who has got that 15-second penalty, remembering, for the instant on lap number 1 between himself and car number 88 here, making his way right now, and that's Moreira. He had the instant with for the avoidable contact. We can see Hughes with that 15-second penalty just trying to keep it consistent and stay out of trouble now, making his way through turn 12, getting a little bit deep there is Hughes, and he gets the car recovered, but of course that will compromise his line through the chicane very heavily, and it means he's got more work to do now to chase down Warren. But behind them, we can say that we've got Lambrecht here, Preston Lambrecht from Get Speed Racing here. We can see the American driver starting to feel a bit of pressure from Pastorius. Well, that's not Pastorius, that is Moreira behind, and Moreira, the Portuguese driver here, trying to put some pressure on the AMG driver in the Aston Martin. But you can see how the two machines quite even in the run down towards turn number 1 here, and as a result, the AMG just holding on for the time being. But I wonder how long it'll be before the Portuguese does size the move up, as we see they make their way through turn 2 here, and looking as though he's got the better turning angle on the front end compared to that Mercedes. Look how the Mercedes is understeering off the apex, and that's telling you all you need to know. That Aston Martin looking very strong. In fact, he had to lift out the throttle there, did Moreira. You could see otherwise he was going to tap the back of the AMG, and that's the last thing he would have wanted to do as they make their way through 4. Now I think Moreira's going to go for the cut back to the inside. It's a nice move, but can he get it done on the accelerator coming down into 5? He's going to be on the outside for 5. We can see that we've got Lambrecht on the inside. He's going to try and hold it. There's a little bit of a touch there, but nothing too much, and Moreira going very brave, but still he's still got to get the move done through 6 and into 7, and Lambrecht side by side, and Lambrecht's going to come back in front of him, but he's going to be heavy on the brakes and just cutting the door close a little bit light at the last moment, just about nailing that one before it became a bit dangerous for Moreira. But now they're going to come up into turn 9. They're still side by side, but Lambrecht finally getting it done, and Moreira deciding to pull out and wait for the next lap. A great battle between these two, and indeed very respectable racing between the American and the Portuguese, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this as they go further around the laps and into this race. What with the fact we've still got 53 minutes to go and plenty of time out there on circuit, as both drivers now make their way through second Sector 3, and I doubt we're going to be seeing too many overtakes between these two drivers over the course of Sector 3, or attempted overtakes, because it's a bit tight and these cars are not ideal for overtaking in Sector 3 high front engine rear wheel drive. They don't have the rotation to get it done, nor the acceleration off the corners, but they'll be getting it ready to go once again. And as they make their way out of 15 and into 16, let's see if Lambert can get the better run out the corner. He does indeed get a much stronger run, as we do see a 15-second penalty for Lambert there, and who has given that? Well, let's find out, and we'll take a look at our stewarding report here. And it's the case there was a multi-car accident on lap number 1, and well, it looks as well, it wasn't a multi-car accident here as far as we're concerned with Lambert. It was a case that there was contact between himself and number 233, that was Brandon Warren, and as a result of that, because it was avoidable contact, the stewards have deemed that Lambert deserves a 15-second penalty for it. Well, we didn't see it, but that's what the stewards have decided, so Lambert picking up that penalty. And I can also tell you there was a multi-car accident between a number of drivers, and the number 723 car in particular of a racing. It's been classified as a racing incident, so no further action there, but Lambert will not be happy, I'm sure, in that cockpit right now at the fact he has picked up a 15-second penalty for his actions earlier in the race. But we look back up front once again, and what I can tell you is that Field is starting to just inch away a little bit right now further from Bartle. You can see that gap has opened up to approximately 3 seconds as it currently stands as they go on to lap number 14, and it is the case that Bartle is starting to be reeled in once again a little bit by Lardera as they make their way down towards turn number 1 on lap 14, and the South African doing everything he needs right now to keep it consistent and definitely get himself in a position to pick up a podium. Of course, we've still got the pit stop window. That's a good approximately 15 to 20 minutes away for these drivers, and will they pit early or will they pit late? That will be the big question. But behind this top 3, we can see that we've got Leigh Flowick, who's making his way up to turn number 4 right now. The French driver from Valkyrie Esport doing everything he can to hold on to that P4 and potentially chase down the podium. But there is a sizable gap between himself and Lardera, and you'll see as he comes down towards 5. We don't actually have our top 3 on camera, and that gives you an idea of how big the gap is. It's only when he comes out of 5 you'll see that he's approximately 2.5 seconds down on P3 man, and as a result of that right now, Flowick will just be doing everything he can in the number 717 car here to hold it together and make sure he's got the pace. Further back, we've got Zuga here in P5 now. He was able to find his way past Faulkner earlier on, and he's gained some places as well, and by being up into P5 right now, the Swiss driver doing a very good job and continuing to apply the pressure to the Frenchman ahead of him. But behind, we have got Faulkner in at P6. Indeed, we have got a battle kicking off here, and I think that's Carbon versus Faulkner as they go into turn 10. They're side by side into the hairpin here, and it is Faulkner who holds on the inside here, the British driver, but he's under a lot of pressure from both Carbon and Allen now. Allen at the rear of that pack, of course, in the McLaren, and Carbon in the middle of it in the Aston Martin as they make their way up through turn number 12 and into 13 they go, and you can see it looks as though Faulkner is struggling for grip on that Ferrari right now because he's having to take those apexes so gently by comparison as he makes his way through turn number 16, and this is where the Aston Martin behind should really start to open up its lungs, breathe in deep and charge and go for the position. But will it be the case that Faulkner had a good run off of turn 16? He seems to be safe right now, but we could see a move here as they make their way into the braking zone. Has Faulkner done enough? We could see that Carbon looking for the move on the inside, but he's overstepped it and he's hit the back, and that means that Joshua Allen will gain 2 places with 1 stone there, but he didn't have to do anything for it technically because the drivers ahead of him took one another out. But Carl Bomb there getting it very wrong on the brakes, just carrying way too much momentum and missing his braking point, and as a result contact between the two of them, and we can see Delcom now jumping into the fight here. And indeed it has been the case that Carl Bomb has come back on circuit behind Faulkner, but I think there's going to be a few swear words in the cockpit from Faulkner as we see Delcom trying to go all the way around the outside here at turn 4, but it is the case that Carl Bomb does not want to give the place up, and Atkinson behind in P10 right now is probably thinking, well, this is lovely, chaps, just keep on fighting, I'll get the Bentley. Oh, and goodness me, Carl Bomb turning into a little bit of a battering ram here, and I think the stewards are going to be getting a word about that very shortly, because as he makes his way down towards turn 7 right now, that Aston Martin is going to be worse aware, and it's starting to turn into a little bit of a battering ram rather than a racing car right now. But I think Carl Bomb just needs to cool it down a little bit, and we can see that as Joshua Atkinson chases after him right now, he'll be looking for a way past, and he'll want to do it in a place where he can do it safely, having witnessed some instance there ahead of him right now. But holding on to P10 is Atkinson, the Scottish driver, doing everything he needs to right now in order to bring home a solid top 10 result, just staying out of the trouble around him. But definitely there's going to be more trouble up ahead, or at least we would expect that based on the fighting we've seen so far in that battle for what is P7, being led by Faulkner right now. What with Alan now making his way up into P6, the British driver here, he's going to just focus on, I think, trying to break away right now and hold on to that P6 position, because Zuga is quite a way up the road. The best part of, I would say, approximately 6 seconds up the road as they make their way onto another lap, going on to lap number 16 right now. And we look back to Atkinson here. Will he be able to find a move? I think he's a little bit too far back, and the Bentley doesn't quite have the legs on the Aston Martin, at least in the initial phase, the acceleration zone out of 16. They come down towards turn 1 once again. No move from any of the drivers here. Everybody settling down into a line of stern order, as Miraglia right now in P11 in the Lamborghini here, doing a very good job, the Italian, the Miraglia driver here, just making it very comfortable. The MCW Racing Team driver, I should really say, doing a very good job, just running through turn at number 3 and coming up towards 4 here, and doing everything he needs to right now to potentially pick up a P10 on just simply good pace and also consistency. And that's the one thing you love to see, and it's the one thing that's rewarded in these long races, of course. Sometimes you don't need to do too much fighting. Let the guys around you take one another out. You'll just gain the places naturally. But of course, as everybody starts to settle down, that's going to become less likely until the end of the race. Looking a little bit further back, we've got the Finn of Quizma, the Aston Martin driver here from Random Racing Team name there. I do love that racing team name, that's absolutely brilliant. Making his way down towards turn number 7, the Finn in the number 7 car, of course, and doing everything he needs to do right now to just be slightly outside the points. Voss down in P13, having had a difficult race so far, having been competing for the race lead earlier on. Having a difficult one as it currently stands, but continue to press on all the same as we just check in with our stewards reporting and see if anything has come through. And it is the case that no further action involved. Well, we've got a lot of stewarding investigations going on here still for lap 1, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to look away from the stewards right now and come back to that a little bit later for you, but instead focusing on the racing action that's happening on your screen as we speak. And we can see that Voss here under pressure from Junior, who in turn has got Krautkamp trying to catch up to him. Krautkamp being in the bend, well, that's not a Bentley at the back there, that is indeed a Ferrari trying to unlap itself by looks of things, and it is stuck in the back of this field as it currently stands. But as they make their way through at turn at number 16 here, we can definitely see how Voss doing everything he can to try and keep the AMG machine at bay. But you can see that Junior looking very strong as he goes onto the straight here versus the Porsche. He's getting a huge overspeed here, and it's going to be case he's going to be looking to the outside. Who's going to come ahead come turn 1 here? Is it going to be the Porsche or is it going to be Junior? They go into the braking zone, and it is Junior who's got the move done as they come through turn 2. A nice move there by the American, and just the overspeed in the Mercedes there, giving him the ability to get the move done just before the braking zone into turn 1. And now Junior will go chasing after Voss. The number 222 car lies ahead, only approximately 1.5 seconds up the road as it currently stands. Now looking a bit further up the order here, we can see Field still leading. He's got the best part of what is approximately 3 seconds over Bartle right now as they make their way down towards turn number 10 once again. And we see that Lardier only about 1.5 seconds, if that, off of our P2 man right now. Our top 3 closing up a little bit, very gradually, and Lefloic just chasing after P3 and in fact getting closer to the back of Lardier. And you can see that also Zuga in P5, the other Porsche driver there at the rear of the camera shot as they made their way up through 12, definitely also keeping in touch. And then it's Alan who is a sizable gap away. I'd say that's about 6 seconds still down, and I think Alan at this point just focusing on consolidating this position and keeping good pace. That's going to be critical for his success in this race for Alan, just making sure to keep it together right now, because he hasn't got anything to really chase ahead of him and he hasn't got much pressure behind. He just needs to nail these laps, as we see that Faulkner by comparison, the Ferrari driver here, who's got a back market in front of him, he'll need to clear that back marker of the Porsche as he makes his way through turn at number 16 once again. But Faulkner doing a good job to pull away from Carl Bum after the incident involving those guys, and as they make their way down towards turn number 1 once again, Faulkner having recovered. Carl Bum has got himself back up to P8 after Delcom battling with the Porsche driver there, but the Swede will be wary of the fact he doesn't want to make the same mistake twice under braking. He knows he can get it done on Faulkner. He's got the overspeed in the Aston Martin in the run from 16 to 1, but he needs to keep it together and not make the same mistake under braking. So he locks the brakes up and hits the back of Faulkner again. I think Faulkner's going to be dragging Carl Bum, screaming and shouting to the steward's room for a further investigation, or at least that's what I would expect is probably going to happen. And indeed behind Delcom, he's not able to keep the pressure up on Carl Bum at the moment, but the Belgian driver doing everything he can do in order to pressure the Aston Martin driver to have to go a little bit faster and perhaps make another mistake, which he's now building a reputation for, of course, because he will have seen it out on circuit. Atkinson, meanwhile, P10 looking on all the same, and Miraglida just following around the Italian driver, doing everything he needs to right now. As we take a little bit of a look further down the order, and what we can see as it currently stands is we've still got Linden down in P17 and away from the rest of the drivers in terms of P18 downwards, and he's got the best part of 4 seconds between himself and Horman right now. Horman, of course, the German driver in the Porsche up the road going through turn 7 as we currently speak, and Linden in P17. We then look back to Latsos, of course, the Greek driver here, having a bit of a difficult run out of turn 5 there, and actually looking vulnerable to Hill. Now, these two have been battling for some time, and you can see that Hill has not been able to find a way past the Bentley of Latsos here, but as they make their way through 7 and up into 8, I think Hill's going to be very close to go for a potential move here as we jump on board with the British driver here as we come through a turn number 9, and you could see just up ahead of him how close he's getting to the back of the Bentley, but he just can't find a place to go for a potential move, but he's looking quite edgy on the brakes here. Can he get something done into 10? No, he's going to have to wait once again until he gets onto the start-finish straight, but that's where the Bentley's strong. It has to pull out of the corners onto the straight, so will Hill be able to find it as they make their way through turn number 12 here, and you can see just how careful Hill has to be as we see that Latsos, they're getting a little bit of oversteer through 12 up on the hill, and as we jump to the helicam right now and we follow these drivers through the final sector, you can see how they concertina together coming through the chicane, and this is where the Ferrari is the stronger of the two compared to the Bentley, and as they come through 16, watch how the Bentley, as soon as it gets on the throttle here, just starts to open that gap initially, but actually you saw there that Latsos missed the apex of turn 16, and that has cost him a sizable bit of time, and as a result Hill here is looking quite strong as the pit window has just opened, so 10-minute pit window is a go, but look how the Bentley just keeps Hill at bay here, and he just can't find a way past in the Ferrari. He's going to have to do it in a corner as they make their way out of turn number 2 here and charge around to turn number 3 once again, and as they make their way up through the sweeper, you can see how Hill just cannot keep with the Bentley in those major acceleration zones, and that is the difference between the two of them. It's such a difficult situation for him right now because he knows he's slightly faster, but Latsos knows where he can be the stronger car, and as a result of that, Hill just has to sit down. I think if I was in Hill's shoes right now, I would look to pit as soon as possible. I need to undercut Latsos because he's clearly costing me time because he just has the car that runs away on the straights, but of course Hill and Latsos will both have their own strategies in mind, and the big question will be, when are we going to see people jump into the pits? Well, I can tell you that Bartel has immediately jumped into the pits there, so he's coming and he's trying to undercut Field, but I think what Bartel is also trying to do, he's playing the strategic game versus his main competitor for P2, and that is Julian Lardia, who we are looking at right now. The number 36 driver has been looking very strong, and Bartel has picked up a 15-second time penalty for cutting into the pits and not being able to slow the car down in time. I believe that is what's happened to Bartel. Actually, no, my sincere apologies, ladies and gentlemen. That is for contact between himself and car number 24. Now, car number 24, this was much earlier, and that was Delcom, and that was on lap number, which lap was that? On lap number 1, so Bartel picking up a 15-second penalty for all the incidents that occurred on lap number 1. So as a result, that is going to drop him a sizable way down the order. I think he's serving it in the pits, in fact, so he's going to lose a lot of time. So Lardia will be aware of that. He will have seen that pop up on his heads-up display, or at least he'll have it whispered in his ear by his race engineer, and that means he is now up into P2 out on track and after the strategy as well. So a lot of these stewarding penalties are coming through still, and I think we are going to be seeing even more of them as we go into the race. There's been a lot of incidents, and our stewards having to take a lot of time in order to dissect things because, of course, on lap 1 and lap 2 normally of a race, you get a lot of very angsty incidents. But right now we do have Bartel still in the pits. Carl Bomber's also come into the pits, and we see that Voss has jumped in as well, as we've got some of the drivers further down the order. We've got Novicki also in the pits. He's in currently P20, but we've got drivers parked up right now, and we will wait to see how they all come out. But our race leader right now deciding to stay out. I think the Swiss driver of Field doing everything he needs to as he comes out of the final corner, and indeed having a very solid race so far as he comes on to what is lap number 21. Now for Field, of course, he has an advantage. He opened up the best part of a 3 to 4 second window over the rest of the field, so for him he doesn't have to worry as much about an undercut. He can go for an overcut or just pit at his pleasure. Meanwhile, we can see that Zugo has jumped up to P3, as we note that Lefloic has now gone into the pits, the Frenchman coming in from what was at the time P3 on track position, and he's in, as is Joshua Allen here, from what was P5, and Delcom also jumping in. Atkinson deciding to stay out. out. Now, I think this is to try and overcut the drivers who are ahead of him, although he does still have what is, I believe, at this point in time, as he goes a little bit wide there up onto the runoff space into turn 1. He's going to have to be careful, that one, Atkinson, because that's not going to offer as much grip unless he's using all the marbles there. But I do think that Atkinson right now is trying to go longer than the rest of the drivers he was battling with for P7, but it's now the battle for P6, given that Bartel has picked up that penalty. And by doing this, Atkinson is relying on the idea if he goes on, he won't be fighting when he comes out of the pit. Indeed, he's just cleared a back marker who's decided to take a little bit of a rally cross out of turn 4 there. The Aston Martin just carrying a little bit too much momentum, then getting caught out by the blue flags, which is entirely understandable. As we see behind him, we've got Faulkner here, and then it is Kuzma who's making his way into P6 as a result of this. But remember, the Finn has yet to pit. But this is where it starts to change up a bit, and the big question a lot of our drivers will be facing is, do you pit early and stay in the battles with the guys around you if they decide to pit early, or do you go long? And that's what Atkinson's trying to do. He's trying to go long in this pit window, albeit it will be closing in approximately about 6 minutes time. He's trying to go long to gain track position by not having to fight anyone out on circuit. He will be the slower car theoretically because he's got the worn tyres, but at the same time, if he can keep it together and if he's been keeping a little bit of compound in reserve and not getting too much graining or pickup on the tyres, then as a result of that, he will be able to jump the guys around it. It'll be interesting to see as we see our race leader and also our P3 driver of Zuga coming into the pits, which means re-promoted to the lead right now is Lardier, albeit the French driver, the GPX Racing driver here, has got it all to do, because remember, he was leading, he lost the position, and now he will coming up to the pit stop window. He was the best part of approximately 5 to 6 seconds down on field, but remember, field is now in the pits, and we will see how things shake up after the round of pit stops. And remembering that Lardier is the last of our leaders in that top 5 yet to pit. Now, looking a little bit further down the order, what I can also tell you right now is that after his pit stop, Bartel has come back out in what was at the time P15 on our screens, but he has got traffic. He's got Peelen ahead of him, and we haven't seen too much of Lucas Peelen, the Dutchman, getting out the way of Bartel there, and he doesn't have to do that. But I think what Peelen was realising there is the fact he's not in the race with Bartel. There's no point holding up a driver you're not racing with, because you're only costing yourself time, particularly battling into turn 10, and you saw Peelen actually peeled the car. No joke meant there, folks. That's just the way the English vocabulary works. But no, it was a case of he pulled immediately off of the turn 9 exit curve there to get out the way of the fast charging Bentley, and we can see that Bartel definitely going attack, as we see that Field now coming out of the pits, and Bartel with that 15-second penalty, where it should be the case. Zuga coming out of the pits here now. Zuga coming out very quickly from the pits. Has Zuga decided that he put all the fuel in at the start of the race, because he's actually closed up somewhat to Field here, and as a result of that, and with Bartel having that 15-second penalty that's been applied to his time, we can see that he has lost positions, and in fact he's now behind Joshua Allen. Allen is just up the road from him, and I think, given how this is all playing out right now, you are effectively, what you're looking at based on our timing screens here is the fact that Lardier may be very vulnerable to dropping quite a way down the order here, and well, your race leader filled in P6. If you work that backwards right now, Zuga may have jumped himself up into P2 and left Floix back into P3 as a result, actually, at his pit stop, and Joshua Allen could have jumped to P4. We will still wait and see how it all plays out, as we hear that Brandon Warren is in the pits right now, the American driver in P15 coming into the pits, but expected to drop a little bit down the order as we look a bit further down. And we can see as well that Tony Hill now coming out of the pits. He's on his outlap right now and charging around here, and remember, he was in the battle with the Bentley of what was at the time. As we take a look at our tone screens here, I believe he was in the battle at the time with what was, no, it was not Bartel here. I think it was not Atkinson. It was the silver Bentley there, although we've forgotten the driver's name off the top of our head, but making his way around the circuit right now, it was in case that Hill needed to decide whether he was going to go long or to go short, where he decided to pit, and he is now in P25 trying to make his way through turn number 3 there once again. As he comes up through the corner, he got a little bit of traffic in front of him, but it's not going to cost him too much time. But the big question, of course, you will be asking at this point, what about with the leaders? Well, Lardier is still going around right now, and I think he's going to be coming in at the end of this lap, because that pit window is getting very tight indeed. It's going to be closing soon, and we can see that Atkinson is in the pit right now, pitting from P3, and that means that Faulkner has definitely been promoted. And Mustakis right now, well, he's definitely up the order. Indeed, a lot of drivers will be, but Mustakis, remember, has yet to pit as well, as has Latsos here, who is following him. Well, yeah, Latsos behind him, following him around here. So all these drivers do still need to take some pit stops as they make their way through. And Latsos, in fact, has come into the pit, and it was Latsos versus Hill, to clarify, folks. That's who we're talking about with regards to Hill, as we see that Phil just continuing his way around on circuit, and our race leader now coming into the pits is Lardier here. So this is where it all changes up, and it is going to be for the the lead as we see Field here in P4. He's still got half the lap to go. I think it's going to be very close between Field and Lardier as to who is going to come out as the race leader here, because pit stops are quite long at Catalunya, but it's going to be very close between the two of them as he's got a lot of traffic ahead of him as Field, and they're all battling for position up ahead as well. And this is the thing he won't have wanted. He will not have wanted a whole rostrum of cars up ahead of him all fighting and siphoning over position as they come down into turn number 10 there. And you can see that we have got everybody stacking over the top of one another here, and I think that's Lambrecht right in the mix of the battle, and they're all tripping over one another as we see that is Peelan who went off the circuit there, and Field now is trying to find his way through them all, and he's doing a good job of it, is Field, but you can see he's in the middle of the 5 cars flashing his lights to say to them, please politely get out of my way, although there's probably a couple of French swear words in there as well, as there's contact between Field and the Bentley there as they were making their way through turn 13, and as a result of that, Field has rejoined off the circuit, but that is going to cost him time. And coming out the pits right now is Lardier, and as he comes out the pits, he's done it. He's jumped back up into P1. He's made it on the strategy work here, although he has cut over the white exit line. I'm not sure what the rules were with regards to that white exit line, and whether it's meant to be a solid line that our drivers are not permitted to jump over, but he's just made it out in front, has the Frenchman here, and as a result, he's got himself back up into the race lead because Faulkner has come into the pits, and that means Field now, to give you an idea, he's just coming out of turn 3, so the gap between our race leader and Field, between Lardier and Field, is the best part of approximately 4.5 seconds, all because Field came out into traffic and had to try and force his way past, and he ended up getting caught up on a Bentley coming out of turn 13, and that is the difference. That's where the strategy has not worked out. And Zuga, well look here, the Porsche driver has jumped from what was P5 at the time up into P3. I mean, to be fair, he has got the traffic in front of him, which he's trying to find his way through, who are battling, mind you. You can see that Peelan battling with the Mercedes as they're going through, and he's got Lefloic behind him as Zuga, and they're all tripping over one another on circuit here, flashing their lights frantically as Zuga and Lefloic, because they both want to battle, as we see that the pit window has now closed, so everybody has made their pit stops, but it's Zuga who's finally cleared these guys, and then you've got the battle between Peelan and the AMG that's finally ended, and Lefloic has gained more than Zuga, as Zuga has lost out massively going up through the corner here as they continue around on the circuit right now. It is very, very difficult for our leaders to try and find their way through the pack, but indeed the one who has gained the most is Lefloic, and Zuga to an extent, but Zuga under a lot of pressure as a result of all this. Looking a bit further down the order, Bartel, as we see the AMG there spun out between, and that was the battle between Peelan and the AMG, and I think that was the AMG Mercedes of what was at the time of, that's not Gegord, and that's definitely not Lambrecht there, but somebody has had an absolute nightmare as they've made their way out the corner. Well, what I can tell you is that with it all playing out, Joshua Allen now under a huge amount of pressure from Ross Bartel here. Bartel with that 15-second penalty, and Allen up into P5, and he's going to have, it's going to be the Bentley charging after him. I think that Bentley is going to be very strong versus the McLaren 720 down the straight here. We'll wait and see as they come charging down towards turn 1. The 720 doing enough initially, but here comes Bartel. He's going to have the overspeed here. Is he going to go for a move? He's going to swing out for it on the brakes here, but can Allen keep it together just for the time being? And I think what Bartel's trying to do here, he's trying to psychologically trick Allen into a mistake. He's trying to get him to go deeper and deeper on the brakes each time and wear those brakes out, wear the front tyres out going into turn 1, because you can see what Bartel does. He loves to play with drivers into turn 1. He makes these little dummy moves, and you can see again, look how he just moved off the racing line a tiny bit there as if to say to Allen, I'm coming for you, or am I? And that's going to be in Allen's mind, and he has to focus on keeping it together. And you can see that Allen, as a result, taking a much tighter run through turn 4, and that's cost him a little bit of exit apex speed there, but Bartel staying right in the mix here, and Allen just needs to keep that car planted. But of course, this does mean that they're losing time to the top 4 right now. The top 4 will be disappearing off up the circuit. The gap between them and the top 4 is the best part of 4 seconds as it currently stands, as Bartel just really starting to eke that pressure on. But looking a little bit further back, we can see Delcom, he is the best part of about 8 seconds behind right now, the Belgian driver, and trying to hunt his way into the fight for P6 as a minimum here as he makes his way through turn number 9. And Atkinson, what have it all said and done? And remember what I said to you earlier, ladies and gentlemen, our Atkinson deciding to go long and just simply jump over everyone. He's jumped over Carlbom and Faulkner because he simply ran long on the strategy, and Carlbom and Faulkner had to go early on the strategy. And Carlbom's right behind him, there's no doubt about that. But and you can see that Carlbom there in the Aston Martin right behind behind, but that's how Atkinson is now up into P8 by simply overcutting on the strategy and deciding to run in the clear air despite having the older compound tyres there as he makes his way down into turn number 3, and it's not turn number 3, turn number 13. Add a 1 in there at the front of the number, dear fellow, as he makes his way 14 and 15, and doing a very good job is Atkinson as he makes his way through the final corner. Once again, the Scottish driver doing well so far. He's still got half an hour to go, however, and the pressure will be mounting as we look back to our battle for P5, and you can see that Alan now starting to trip over a back marker there, a Ferrari, and as a result of that, Bartel is going to be looking to capitalise, and that's one of the things that Bartel's very good at, we're noticing. He knows how to play the circuit against the driver in front when he wants to go for a move. He'll use everything he can, but the Ferrari being sensible, they're getting out of the way, lifting before turn 4 in order to get out of the way for the battle for P5, and both drivers will be very happy with that, of course, the fact they're able to fight one another without an interfering body there, as we see that Dave Jr. meanwhile in P11 just chasing after Faulkner here. He's got a little bit of a gap to Faulkner, has the American driver here. He's got a gap of approximately what would be about a second, if that, but chasing after the Ferrari driver. He has got the back marker between them, although that looks to be Car Bomb. In fact, that's not Car Bomb, although it looks like it is not Car Bomb indeed, and indeed there is a lapped car between Faulkner and what looks to be a Junior there as they make their way through turn number 7 and up into 8. And I am hearing that with regards to some of the pit stop windows, that a number of drivers did not pit within the pit window. That may be the case, Studio 168. We will find out a little bit later, but right now, as things are continuing, we can see that Horman down in P15, the German driver, doing a good job here of keeping himself in that top 15, and indeed just running in a little bit of clear air right now. He's chasing after Kwiesma, who is a couple of seconds up the road from him as he makes his way into turn number 10 here, as we hear Nowicki picking up a 15-second penalty, as Mustakis as well, and we are just looking at our stewarding panel here, and we have got a huge number of penalties still being dished out on laps 1, 2 and 3 for drivers here, although none of them affecting the major racing up front, I should clarify. But Nowicki there, the number 882 driver, picking up a penalty for what was on, as we look for our notes here, on lap 4, involving himself and number 294, car 294, which was the driver of, as we look through our sheets here, we can't quite find that. That was a Kellgren there, the battle between the two of them, avoidable contact on lap number 4 between the two, and that's how Nowicki picked up the penalty. In fact, we did catch that on camera earlier on. It was some quite savage contact, as we see that Horman making his way down towards turn number 1. A little bit of dirt being kicked up there from the Aston Martin ahead of him, but that won't put him off too much. That's Kwiesma ahead, who he is chasing down. I think the Finn is starting to feel the pressure of the German advancing slowly behind him as they make their way through turn number 3. And behind Horman, we can see that Linden just chasing after him right now, the Swede in P16, and doing a solid job here, albeit he is the best part of approximately 8 seconds behind, and he has got the pressure of a Bentley chasing after him, albeit for him, that is not a Bentley on the lead lap, as we come to understand it, Linden's lap, and as a result, he will only be thinking to himself, right, I've got a back marker who's trying to hug the back of me. Well, that's nice, I've got a shield behind me, and that will work out very nicely, albeit the back marker maybe wanting to unlap themselves a little bit later on. We'll wait and see. But Linden's closest competitor right now, Nowicki, is just coming up to turn 4, as we see he's under a lot of pressure from Voss here, and Voss having a very difficult day at the office, just not working out for him, dropping more and more down the order, and now he's in P18 chasing after the Ferrari there of Nowicki, and Nowicki having the 15-second penalty, of course, which he will have to burn coming out of the race, so he will have it at the end. It will be applied to his time. But Voss there going for a move up the inside, and I think Nowicki realising, you know, it was going to happen anyway. I'm just going to let him through and focus on keeping up my pace, so that way I lose less places by the end of the race, come the end of the remaining 26 minutes with that 15-second penalty applied. And Mustakis as well, also picking up a penalty for what we believe was an instant earlier on in the race. And as we check to our side here, we are seeing that it was a penalty on what was lap number 2, as we come to understand it. As we look back up front right now, staying away from penalties and the midfield for a brief bit, we can see that Field doing everything he needs to right now to hold on to what is this position. In fact, hold on a second, I thought Lardier was leading ahead of Field. Well, Lardier has had an instance somewhere, because as a result he's dropped down, because he was leading earlier on, and Field had lost out considerably as a result of being caught in traffic there. So Lardier got it wrong, and as a result he has dropped down the order here, and that is not good news for the French driver, because now he's going to have to recover all over again. He's back into P2. As we hear, we've got a drive-through penalty being applied for Voss right now, and that is for an unsafe rejoin on lap number 6. So as a result, Voss is going from great to bad to disastrous to nightmare in P17, and you are looking at Voss right now as he's just coming through turn number 2, and he's going to be absolutely aggrieved at that. I can tell you the Intruder Racing team not having a good day at the office right now as he makes his way up towards turn number 4. But again, it's the start of the season for a lot of these drivers. They will want to get these mistakes out the way nice and early, but really right now the one driver who not making any mistakes whatsoever is our race leader of field. Yes, he had the incident with the Bentley and we're waiting for the stewarding verdict on that as he was trying to clear the Bentley, but besides that, Field just having a solid race, and the Swiss driver here just looking unstoppable with 24.5 minutes to go. Of course, commentator's curse not applying, it will be the case. I think Field is going to be leading the field home at this point, if you excuse the pun, and it wasn't intended. But then we can see that Joshua Allen right now in P4 and Lardier dropping it down the order. I think Lardier's had an incident somewhere because he has dropped even further down the order, and in fact we are going to take a look back because he's just been passed by Delcom as well. Let's take a look back at what happened to the French driver. We'll briefly jump back to that for you. So you can see there he's off circuit now. Where was that? That's the run out of turn 13. So as a result, he's had to take to the desert or the gravel there and then make his way back onto the circuit. So Lardier really struggling at this stage in the race, and I think it's a number of instances, and that's Delcom coming through on him. I wasn't Delcom at the time, my apologies, but Lardier dropping down the order on the live time machine now. He's down in 13th. The car's just giving way to him. But what I can tell you as we resume the racing here, it's going from great to disastrous for Lardier. He was looking set to win, but the car just in a horrific state and looking as though it's got quite a bit of damage to the car as well. And the Frenchman just not having the ability to bring it home. He's got 23 minutes to go. Will he be able to bring it home inside the top 20? I think everybody will be salivating at wanting to take him down right now and gain a position on him. But what I can tell you as a result is that Lefloic has now made his way up into P3. He's on the bottom step of the podium as it currently stands, and with 23 minutes remaining, he is chasing after Zuger. And really, Zuger and Lefloic, and you can see Zuger at the front of your screen, the two Porsche drivers here, they have really been battling for position, but they've been working closely together as well. They're not teammates, of course. We don't have teammates in terms of a championship here, or at least as far as I'm aware, we don't have a team championship. This is a driver's championship only, but what you can see, Zuger and Lefloic haven't really taken much time out of one another, but they're both aware of one another's presence, and this, in a way, collaboration, this silent collaboration, is giving them the ability to just gain places because they'll only put pressure on one another come the end of the race. Now, looking further back, I can tell you that Joshua Allen's still battling with Ross Bartle. Bartle not able to find a way past the British driver. The McLaren versus Bentley scenario goes on still as they are on lap number 30 right now. But I think what it is, Bartle is waiting. He's analysing Allen as much as possible here. And you can see, look how Bartle closes up under braking through turn number 4 there. As we jump to the on board, we're looking back from Bartle's car right now, and you can see just how close it is. And now look at how Bartle is realising, right, I can take a bit out of you there, I can get really close to you on the exit of 5. He's looking for every which way in order to put pressure on Allen. He won't want to go for the move unless he absolutely has to, and he'll do it probably in the final 10 minutes if Allen doesn't make a mistake before then. But Allen under a lot of pressure right now, and I think Bartle getting ready to pounce as soon as there's one tiny error as they both come out of turn number 9. But there we saw that Bartle going deep, and as a result going wide of track limits. He'll get a warning for that as they make their way into the braking zone for turn number 10 once again. And you can see the difference in lines. Bartle having to use the full track width in order to turn the car in, whereas Allen just able to flex the car in immediately as Lambert gets out of the way of both of them there. You see the AMG just get passed by the pair of them as we jump back to the exterior camera right now, and they continue to push all the way on. And as they make their way through turn at number 13, and I do agree with you there, Mr. Fish, in terms of having the timing on the left-hand side of the screen, it would be helpful. Unfortunately, with the tools available to us, we're not able to see those timings currently, but we'll see what we can do for you in the upcoming broadcast. But I think it's a limitation we have at the moment. Focusing on the here and now, though, but grateful for the feedback all the same. We can see Allen under a lot of pressure. In fact, making a little bit of an unexpected mistake. They're just tipping two wheels onto the grass there before turn 1, well before turn 1, and as a result of that, I think it's the case that Allen have really started to feel mental pressure, and Bartle are definitely getting extremely close to that. And in fact, he's going for the move. I think Allen's just decided that the car's not going to hold together anymore, and he'd rather just let Bartel through, although he may try and come back at him, Alan, as they go into the braking zone. But that's very deep on the brakes, and I think there may have actually been a little bit of contact there, because we could see that Bartel actually did a little flash of lights there. So I think just some mutual respect between the drivers. I think Bartel feels he may have just given Alan a little bit of a push wide up into 3, but it's the case that Bartel will definitely try to find a way past the British driver right now as they press on in this battle for P4, and it is going to hit its tipping point any moment soon as they make their way through 7. And again, you can see just how Alan not able to match the apex. I think the tyres are starting to go a little bit, or the legs and arms are starting to get a little bit worn in the case of Alan as they make their way through 9 and up into 10. And as they come up there right now, it is one of those situations where I think at any moment it could kick off, and we will wait to see it. But right now in the battle for P2, we see that Zuga in that P2 position, and he's got a nice 1 second gap over Lefloic. And as they make their way through the chicane once again, they're starting to get traffic. This may be an opportunity for Lefloic to get a position or get a little bit closer. But coming back to Alan, of course, and we'll see that Bartel, as we jump on board with the British driver here, he's going to be the closest he's ever been coming out of chicane. You can see how close he is. He's riding the gearbox to us. He's always putting the Bentley's engine through the rear of that McLaren as he's coming out the final corner here. But this is where Alan's just so strong initially. He gets to run off of those critical corners for the long acceleration zones where the Bentley should be able to attack, but it's not able to until the very end. And will the Grumpy Monkey machine go for a move? It won't. He can't find a way to get alongside initially, but as he makes his way through turn 2, you can just see how Alan is having to hold on. The car is literally just offering the bare amount of grip, and Alan goes a little bit wide, but he's able to keep it on the track limits once again out of 3. Natural run wide there as they make their way up towards turn number 4. And Bartel definitely, it's almost as if you put a crosshair on Alan's car here as Alan gets hit a little bit wrong on apex there of turn number 4. And as they come down towards 5 right now, will Bartel look for a move up the inside, or will he wait once again? He decides to wait, but Alan goes a bit deep and he parks it on the apex. He just collects the car together, and this is where Bartel just can't seem to find a way to penetrate the McLaren's armour right now. He's trying to find every which way as he goes a little bit deep, does Alan once again, and it's definitely the case that Alan looking as though he's coming to the end of the life of those tyres in terms of their overall grip, and now he's got to try and just keep it together. He's got to try and find ways to get rid of Bartel's pace by simply parking that car on the apex. But of course, every time he parks on the apex, heavy braking will take more life out the tyres. He's pushing uphill against a downhill battle, and it's a disastrous one at that if he oversteps his mark. But he will try and hold on just that little bit longer as they make their way through turn number 12 once again. Now, it's not the Bartel and Allen show, although we'd love to have it be that way, so we will jump to a little bit more action further around the track very shortly. But we're just going to follow these guys onto the next lap. And again, look how close Bartel is. He's just so close. But as soon as they come out of the corner, he just cannot get the car turned and get on the power as quickly. And that is where Bartel just has that little bit of difficulty. But now, as they come charging down onto lap number 33 here, it is the case that the South African will continue to look, and I think here Alan is actually feeling a little bit vulnerable. He pulled into the middle briefly as Carl Bomb has got a drive-through penalty, and we will see what that is for very shortly. Carl Bomb, he's in the battle here with Faulkner, and it's a good time we switched over to, as it's Carl Bomb on the outside, it's Faulkner on the inside, and Faulkner going for the move, and I think Faulkner's got it done here, albeit Carl Bomb has got a drive-through penalty as well, so he won't be too pleased with that. But Faulkner now up into P8. The British driver continuing to move up the order with 17 minutes to go. Now, looking further around the field, what I can tell you is, looking at down the order, we've got Crew Camp right now, the other Grumpy Monkey machine, the Bentley machine here, making his way through turn number 3 and doing a very nice job of doing so as he comes up, and the South African in that P12 position in a bit of clear air here, and I think just trying to nurse the car home to P12, and I think he'll be very pleased with this. Doing a very strong job right now is Crew Camp as he comes through 4 and heads down around towards 5 here, and we can see Quizba behind him there trying to catch up is the Aston Martin driver, the Finn. He's about 1.5 seconds off of the Bentley driver here, but it's a long road to catch up as he makes his way through turn 5. 1.5 seconds can feel like a lifetime towards the end of the race because the legs are tired, the arms are tired, the car doesn't want to cooperate as much anymore. You name it, all the excuses really start to come in, and they're very valid excuses, and it's finding that little bit of energy left to get it done. And Horman the same behind in P14 right now, trying to find a way into the mix as we see Linden up into P15, a top 15 position right now, a bit further down, but he's got a nice nice amount of track, and he's got no wiki behind with a 15-second time penalty to be added onto his race. So Linden will feel comfortable right now just to keep the car going as he makes his way up through turn number 9. And then we've got no wiki here in P16 in the Ferrari with that time penalty, of course, as we look a bit further at the order. And I think we've still got the ongoing battle between Alan and Bartle. And in fact, that looks like Delcom. And is that Delcom coming down the inside here of what is Bartle? Well, I'm not sure what's happened here, but Delcom really coming alive. And in fact, he's caught up to the pair of them, and he's made the move on Bartle for P5 as they went through turn at number 1 and into 2. So Delcom now coming back alive, and he's up into P5, and now he'll be chasing after Alan here. And I think it was the case that Alan really has been driving so slowly by comparison with Delcom behind. Indeed, Bartle has been caught up behind Alan. As a result, Delcom has caught up to this and can now be looking at a potential chance of finishing in P4. Look how quick he's moving by comparison with Alan here. Alan has definitely taken the life out of the car, and Delcom has just been focusing on keeping that compound alive and keeping the car going to the end. As we check in with our stewarding right now to see if there's anything else to be noted, and we'll take a very quick look with regards to the stewarding reports, and we are seeing a 15 time second penalty to car number 4, and that was for the incident on lap number 8 involving them and 294, and car number 4 of course being the car known as we look back through our sheet here, and we see that Alan is under a lot of pressure into turn 10. That was Gareth Mills there, the car number 4, but Gareth all the way down towards the back of the order, as we see Mattis Watts coming into the pits in P41, looking out of our window right now. But looking back at the battle here for P4, we can see that Alan under huge pressure, and I think Delcom's going to have it down into turn 1 here, because with the mid-engine rear-wheel drive nature of the Porsche as well, he'll have the rotation out of the chicane, and that will give Delcom everything he needs here in the air, in the slipstream of Alan. And you can see how close he is. I think this is going to be said and done unless Alan goes incredibly defensive and puts it in the middle of the road and then goes late on the brakes. But the Belgian, I don't think actually getting the best run here, and I think that McLaren having enough legs on the straight. I'm actually a little bit wrong there. I think the Porsche just has not got the straight line speed compared to the 720S McLaren as they make their way through. So Alan doing everything he needs to right now just to hold on. He's forming a traffic jam, and in fact I think in the rear view picture that is Atkinson in P7 starting to catch up to this. He's just coming through turn number 3 as well. Off a second, I think we've just seen that Alan letting Delcom through there. We just missed that slightly, but letting Delcom through under braking into turn number 4 there, and I think feeling that he can hold off Bartle a little bit better and Delcom would naturally get past. I'm not sure why that was the case, but I think that Alan, unless he broke really early for P5 there, but Delcom getting past, and that is indeed Atkinson starting to chase after the pair of them as they make their way up towards turn at number 7 here. And Bartle, I think, will be thinking, well, if you've just let Delcom through, Alan, why can't you let me through as well? Well, I think it's the case that perhaps Alan recognises that he can hold off the Bentley more easily than he can the Porsche. I think he feels that the Porsche is going to take the time out, and he'd rather lose 1 place than lose 2 places by battling with Delcom. But again, Delcom not pulling away too rapidly as we see a back marker there in another McLaren 720S actually closing up to this as well, and Atkinson a little bit further behind. So we have got a little bit of a traffic jam forming behind Alan right now as they continue to make their way around on the circuit. But this is a very brilliant drive by both drivers, and it'll be a question to see which one of them is going to be finishing in our top 5. Will it be Alan or will it be Bartle as they make their way through the chicane once again here? And we look further around to see if there's any other shooting coming in, as there's traffic coming out the final corner. A Bentley running very slow out the final corner, and that might be enough here to stop Alan's momentum. You could see that Bartle's the closest he's ever been in the run down towards turn 1. I think Bartle this time will feel he's in a position, and the Bentley's behind are getting a double or a triple toe as they all charge down towards turn number 1 here. And you can see, oh my goodness me, Bartle just taking a huge hit on the rear there from, I believe that is a McLaren that is on a lap down as a minimum, and Bartle being knocked massively with the battle between the McLaren and the Bentley sending him flying. That was absolutely horrific, and I can tell you that Bartle as a result of this is now in the battle with Atkinson and also Faulkner, and Faulkner on the inside of Bartle here as they make their way in towards turn number 4, and Bartle will be seething with foam from the mouth there at the fact that that happens. He was right in the position to attack Alan, with Alan being compromised out of 16, but in the end it was Bartle who received the compromising knock, and now Faulkner up into P8, and well, not P8, my apologies, that is going to be P7, and Atkinson ahead. Well, he'll be absolutely laughing to the bank if he can hold on right now, because he'll be the lead Bentley, and he would not have expected this come the end of the race with 11 minutes to go. Now, moving away from this briefly, folks, I can tell you that your race leader, Field, is coming up against a bit of traffic, but he has still got a huge gap to Zuga. He's got a gap of 15 seconds to our P2 man right now, although Field's being held up a little bit. The Ferrari gets out the way finally, but it is the case that Field is really bringing this one home with just under 11 minutes to go, and then we have got Zuga in at P2, who's chasing after him, but the best part of those 11 to 10 seconds down, and he's still got the Flight chasing after him, and you can see, just as they make their way out, that we've got Delcom just coming out of the final chicane in the number 24 car, the Belgian driver, the further part of what is about 10 seconds down the road on the guys up ahead, albeit perhaps a little bit less, as they're just making their way through turns 1 and 2 right now. And then we have got the battle for P5, of course, which is a little bit of a stop right now, given the fact that Alan was given the free pass of Bartel being sent off at turn 1. Through no fault of his own. And then we've got obviously Atkinson in P6 chasing after Alan right now under a lot of pressure from Faulkner, and Bartel trying to catch up as well, and we'll see how that plays out. Behind them, we've got Dave Jr., who is catching up as well, the American driver in the Mercedes, our top Mercedes driver as it currently stands, doing a very good job in P9. He has got Miraglia in P10 behind him, and the Lamborghini driver here, he's the best part of what is approximately 7 seconds behind Jr., and I think he'd be very happy to come home with a top 10 finish today, because the Lamborghini was not looking strong at all in qualifying, but he's held on to things in the race right now, with Jr. with a 15-second penalty as well, and that is a surprise for Jr. to pick up a 15-second penalty, and as a result of that, well, Junior is definitely going to be losing that place to Miraglia at this point, and it'll be a case of how many more places will he lose after that. We'll have to wait and see. But Crew Cam, by comparison, chasing after Miraglia right now. He's not too far down the road from Miraglia. You can see Miraglia at the head of the train ahead, and Crew Cam only 6 seconds down in P11, and Horman in P12 right now. And he is not being pursued too rapidly, although that's Carl Bond there in P13 behind him. And the Swede falling behind the German here, albeit it wasn't on camera because we were so engrossed in the battle for P5 at the time, but we can see that Crew Cam is pulling away, and Horman now just doing everything he can to hold on to P12 as Carbom is behind him, of course. And then we've got Tobias Linden in P14. The Swede right now got a little bit of traffic in front of him, and he's got Kwiesma quite a way down the road. I think Kwiesma is the best part of what is about 12 seconds behind him, so Linden can roll this home in P14, although Carbon with a 15-second penalty. All the penalties are now stacking up and coming in from the stewards here, and as a result, and that's for instance earlier on in the race, and as a result of that, it is the case right now that a lot of drivers will gain places come the end of this one by simply just not picking up penalties here, and it just goes to show that driving it as cleanly as possible is critical to success, as well as it is about being daring on the brakes. Well, who would have thought of that, as we hear that Bartel has passed Faulkner for P7, albeit that's off camera. Nowicki in P16 currently, but with a 15-second penalty. And then we've got Moreira here, the Portuguese driver, making his way out of turn number 11 and up into 12 right now. And we see that the Portuguese in that P17 and from the M2 competition team here in the Aston Martin doing a solid job, but he is being chased down by Warren. Warren is a long way back, however. Warren is the best part of 13 seconds, but I can tell you Warren is slowly closing up on him, very gradually trying to close that gap up. And then we've got Latsos in P19, who is just doing everything he can to hold on to that position right now. He's got a good amount of space he has in the Bentley compared to Hughes. Hughes has got the slipstream, of course, of Latsos, but Latsos we know very strong and knows how to get the most out of that Bentley to hold on, much like what happened to Hill earlier. And I can tell you, after all the pit stops, Tony Hill was not able to jump Latsos. If anything, he's lost out of place and is down in P21, but still doing a good job and almost within the top 20. So that's our top 20 as we do a quick run through of the order, and we do look a little bit further down the order as it currently stands, and we can see Lambrecht earlier on has dropped all the way down to P25. He does have a drive-through penalty as a result of stewarding decisions, and we can see that the American right now in P24 will be dropping a bit further down the order once he's had that drive-through penalty, with 6.5 minutes to go right now. But we look back up to our race leaders very shortly, but before we do, we jump down to Eric de Klerk, and we can see that the Dutch driver here under a bit of pressure from Soridis, and Soridis, who we haven't really had a chance to introduce, Leonidas Soridis, the Greek driver here in the Bentley, the number 96 car here, really putting that pressure on. And we can see Linden behind them, who is on a lap up from them and trying to get them out the way as soon as possible, flashing his lights a little bit there. We can see that Soridis battling with de Klerk, but as they go through turn 13. They're tripping over a slower car here, and as a result, Linden has now got 3 back markers. He needs to find his way through, and he's going to be very careful here, as we can see the Audi of de Klerk, as we see the Porsche peel into the pits there, and I think that's Velkoski going into the pits there, and they make their way around onto another lap, and the gap opens up a little bit between Saridis and de Klerk. De Klerk is pulling away, what with the traffic separating the two of them and giving de Klerk a small advantage as they all make their way through here. And we look back up to our leaders, and we can see that no change up front at the moment. Bartel has got himself up to P7 as we mentioned earlier, but with 5.5 minutes to go, Field doing everything he needs to right now, the Swiss driver, to bring it home. He's got the best part of another 4 laps remaining as he comes out the final corner, and he just needs to keep it together, and he'll be able to bring home a solid result in the end. It will be the win, it will be the opening win of the season, and he will be best pleased with that. But it's a long season, and indeed he will know himself that every race is a marathon, and the championship is the ultimate marathon if he wants to win it come the end. But we look back and we see that Zuger versus Lefloic. Lefloic has been trying to get that gap down. It is the best part of now 7/10 of a second as they go into turn 1 for the 40th time of asking, and we notice that Lefloic is catching up a little bit as we jump on board with the French driver here, and you can see now that he is really starting to unleash the pace right in. I think what Lefloic has been trying to do for the last 10 laps is just stay behind the P2 man and try and use him as a pace car and manage the car, and you can see how Zuger is now actually starting to just come a little bit closer every time, but Lefloic there actually did go a bit deep on turn 4 on the brakes there, so as a result that was a little bit of a mistake from Lefloic, and Lefloic did very well not to seize the brakes up there to lock them up completely. But you can see the differences in the driving lines now. Lefloic going for more of a qualifying line, Zuger going for a more gentle racing line, and this is where Lefloic has been saving the car for the very end. With 5 minutes remaining, he's activating everything he's got now. He's been saving up those energy reserves, he's been saving up the fuel to go full attack, and this is where he gets so close. Can he spoil Zuger's dreams of getting a P2 on his debut here in this season? As they make their way down in towards turn number 10, you can see Zuger closing to the inside there and then parking it in the middle, but he loses a lot of momentum because he hasn't got the turning line through turn 10. Meanwhile, Lefloic has, as they make their way into 11, then up into 12 here, and they've got the traffic ahead of them. They've got the Ferrari by looks of things, and I think Zuger at this point will be screaming, "Get out the way! You need the blue flags! Where are the blue flags?" As we see Lefloic there getting out of the slipstream just to give himself a little bit of breathing room and not to overheat the tyres into 13, as Zuger goes a little bit deep here into 14 and 15. They come out the final corner. Now will Zuger be safe because he has the slipstream of the Ferrari, or will Lefloic get the double toe here as they come out the final corner to go on to lap number 41? And this is where the big question begins, and the Ferrari in front a little bit oblivious I think at the moment to the blue flags being waved. He will need to get out of the way. There's double blue flags waving and he's not noticing them, and Zuger here under a horrific amount of stress. As you see, he has to try and force a pass on the Ferrari here, who will be called in front of the stewards, and also Lefloic almost getting sent a little bit wide, but the Ferrari is finally clear. But you can see how it's cost Lefloic time there, and as a result he's now got it all to do again with only 3 laps remaining, as we understand, well 2 laps remaining as we understand it with the current time available in this race. So it's all to play for P2 right now between these two, as I can tell you that in the battle for P5 Joshua Allen's still holding on, but behind you can see that Atkinson being attacked feverishly by Faulkner right now. The Scottish driver doing everything he can to try and hold off the small but speedy Ferrari versus the big chunky Bentley as they make their way up towards turn number 4 here. It's David versus Goliath, albeit David is a nice big boy, meanwhile Goliath is absolutely tiny by comparison, as they make their way through turn number 4 and up into 5, and there is no change between the two of them so far. But I think if it's going to happen, Faulkner will go for it on the final lap. You can see how close he is to the back of the Bentley ahead of him as they make their way down towards turn number 7. The sun low in the sky now, the track temperature down to 29 degrees centigrade and ambient down to 26 local, and what it means as a result now, the track is going to still be in its optimum condition, but the tyres will just feel a little bit slippy now every so often. The grips look quite there as we see they all make their way down towards turn number 10. Hill getting out the way of Allen there in towards the turn 10 hairpin, and we see that Atkinson were now in the brakes as Faulkner tried to make the dummy move but wasn't successful in doing so. As they continue to make their way round here, it will be a 42nd and then a 43rd lap for our race leader of Field, who has already crossed the line. And I can tell you that Zuger under a huge amount of pressure from Lefloic now as they make their way down towards turn number 1. And will the move be coming on? You can see Zuger making the late break to the inside here, and it's going to be an attempt round the outside of Lefloic as they go into turn 1 and out of 2. He's on the inside as Lefloic, meanwhile Zuger's still there. He's got the inside for turn number 3 as they flow through the uphill. They're side by side in the battle for P2, and Zuger's holding on for the time being as they come out the corner now, head down towards turn number 4. It's been very classy so far, but which one of them is going to emerge ahead? It's Zuga at the moment as they come through 4, but they've still got one more lap after this one most likely, albeit if they don't knock one another out, but surely they won't as they come down towards turn number 5, and you can see that Zuga's still holding on for the time being as they make their way out of the hairpin corner here, but Zuga knowing that he's had his first taste of Lafloic now, and Lafloic will think to himself, right, I know where Zuga is going to be weak and how he's going to defend into turn 1. I need to use that information going on to the final lap as they both make their way through turn number 9 now, and you can see Lafloic really trying to find every which way through, but he goes a little bit wide out onto the gravel there coming out to turn number 9, and he can't afford to do that too often. That will cause him more track limits penalties as he makes his way through turn number 10, or track limits warnings I should say, as they make their way out of turn 10 and up towards 11 and 12, and you can see Zuga feeling a huge amount of pressure, and I can tell you that in the battle for P6, Faulkner has passed Atkinson. In fact, Atkinson is behind this pack right now, and now under pressure from Bartle trying to reclaim his place as the rightful lead Bentley driver. As we hear that he's going to go on to one more lap is filled, but coming out the final corner here, are they going to go on to a 43rd lap? Zuga and Lafloic, as they come across the line here, I think they are going to go on to a final lap, and as they make their way down towards turn number 1, is Lafloic going to be close enough this time to make the move? As they go into turn number 1, he goes defensive again to Zuga, but Lafloic follows him this time and tries to close the available apex door there, and as a result, Zuga takes the natural line. Lafloic couldn't do what he wanted to. He wanted to try and cut it round the outside quickly and make Zuga panic under braking to take an incredibly slow apex line, but he wasn't able to achieve it. So as they're on to this final lap right now, you can see the battling, but the gap has opened up once again, and meanwhile it is Joshua Allen in P5 as we see behind Atkinson versus Bartle. Bartle can't find a way through into turn number 1. In fact, it's a little bit further back, but Atkinson has gone incredibly deep, and as a result Bartle trying to find his way through, but the Bentleys are too wide. Oh, there's contact between the pair of them as Atkinson is sent onto the gravel, and as a result Junior gets promoted by a 15-second penalty as they resume. But meanwhile up front, coming up towards turn number 10, it is going to be your race winner. He's only got one more sector to go. It's been a tough race for the Swiss all the way through, in the fact it didn't start off perfectly, but he drove consistently all the way through the race. He kept it together in the end, and now with only 4 more corners to go, as a back marker moves out the way, he is going to take the win in race number 1. It is going to be Jez Field who makes his way through the final chicane, through the final corner, and it will be the season opener going to the Porsche driver from Switzerland, the number 420 car, as he crosses the line to take a well-deserved win. Meanwhile, as he makes his way out of the chicane, it's going to be Zuga leading ahead of Lafloic to round off the podium. Zuga and Lafloic being inseparable over the course of the race, but in the end, Zuga picking up P2, Lafloic in P3, and then in P4, it will be Delcom, the Belgian driver, recovering to P4 after all the craziness, and in P5, it is going to be a result which I don't think he will have expected. He's just held on to P5 by the skin of his teeth as he comes around to complete our top 5. It is Joshua Allen, the British driver, holding on ahead of Ethan and Faulkner as he makes his way across the line here. Congratulations to the pair of them. Dave Jr. with a P7, but he has got a 15-second time penalty, so that will be Atkinson who finishes in P8, in P7 ahead of Bartle in the end, and I think that's Miraglia who will pick up what will be a P. I believe their racing is over unless they're continuing on for one more lap, but I believe that is their race complete, and it will be Miraglia who picks up the P9, and I think Junior will finish P10 in the end, and that is going to be your top 10 once all things are said and done. It'll be Crew Camp in P11, Horman in P12, and Linden picking up a P13, albeit he's got to come out of the final corner, and he does have Kriesberg trying to catch up to him. We'll just wait and see if the Swede can hold on. He's got a traffic jam of cars all trying to find his way through, but as he comes through the final corner here, I think he's done enough. I think the legs are killing him right now, and indeed on his debut in racing, oh goodness me, has he run out of fuel on the finish line? I think he has. He ran out of fuel, and that means he's dropped to P14 right at the end. That is a disaster for Linden if that is the case, but that is a very shocking moment. He comes home in P14, and 15th goes to Nowicki with the 15-second penalty. Oh, well, that is all of our top 15 there. What a fantastic race indeed. Congratulations to all of our drivers, and I think now it's time to get ready to interview our podium finishers. Well, we're going to take a brief break, folks, to get that set up. So we will be right back in approximately 5 minutes, if not a little bit less. What a race! Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting in our third place man, Marvin Lafloic, and here he comes. Welcome, Marvin. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Firstly, congratulations on the third place. How does it feel to have come third in the opening round of the series?
To be honest, it was a very tough one, and I really enjoyed this one. It was a really, really good race, and I hope to like the next one will be like this one.
Oh, definitely. So just take us through it a bit. You had a bit of an interesting start. Perhaps it wasn't the start you were hoping for. Just take us through that opening lap.
Yeah, so I struggled a bit on the start with the traffic. I've been pushed a bit, but that was okay. I lost a position, I guess, or maybe I lost just a bit of time. But then in the end, I had to be pushing really hard to go up on the positions.
Definitely. And we saw that over the course of the first stint in particular. We could see how you were running a very consistent pace and just focusing on staying in the hunt for the podium. And just take us through the pit stop phase. Was the target to undercut or was it to overcut?
To be honest, I thought it was the undercut that was the best option, but in the end, the P2 did overcut me, so maybe it was the wrong choice. But yeah, so maybe for the next races, I will think a bit about the overcut.
Oh, definitely, because I think you were definitely hunting down the Peter, and we saw at the end there your battle with Zuga was fantastic. Just take us through that, because I think you'd been saving it all up literally to the final 2 laps to try and overtake him.
Yeah, I was. I know that he was a bit struggling on the last sector, so I was trying to prepare the main straight to overtake him on the first corner. And then in the end, I did not manage. But it was a very interesting battle, and I hope that there will be some more in the next races, like 20 laps race battles like this. It's so fun.
Oh, definitely, because we love to see the way you race, running so tight to the back of Zuga all the way around the lap. And I think if you guys hadn't had some of the back markers between you, I think it may have been on a little bit sooner than that.
For sure.
So with this race complete and us off to, I think it's Zandvoort next. How are you feeling for round 2?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know that much the car because the car I drove it just a little bit for this championship. Otherwise, I drive more the Aston Martin. But and moreover, Zandvoort, I don't know very well the track, so I will train a lot for this race to be able to have the right pace to get good positions. So let's see.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you're able to achieve at the next race. But thank you very much for joining us in the interview box, and congratulations once again on third place.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much.
All the best.
Yeah, bye.
Well, having heard from our third place man, we will very shortly be getting in touch, hopefully, with Chris Zuga, our second place finisher for today. But you could hear there from Lee Flowick, very happy with his performance. Indeed, I think Marvin cherishing the fact that he had that really long battle with Chris. But we'll wait to see what Chris has to say about it as well in a very short while, if we can grab him. But just give us a couple of moments, folks, and we'll be back bringing you another interview. Well, without further ado, we introduce Chris Zuger to the interview box. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, hi everyone.
So, firstly, Chris, congratulations on a valiant defensive effort for P2. How does it feel to have come second on the opening round at Catalunya?
Yeah, it feels amazing. It was very stressful at the end just to defend. Like I was trying to defend very hard, but yeah, feels pretty amazing.
So I have to ask, we saw at the race start, you had a good start, much like Marvin Lefloit did, but it seemed as though you two were inseparable throughout the entirety of both stints. Was he always over the back of you? Was it sort of you were matching his pace, or was he putting the pressure on you? Just take us through that, because every time we panned to you, we could see you were sort of a second up the road, and then Marvin was literally right behind you. It was almost as if you two had agreed before the race, yeah, we're not going to fight at all. We're just going to run nose to tail all the way through the race until the very end.
No, I feel like in the first stint I was a bit faster than him, but then yeah, after the second stint I just had no pace, was pretty struggling, and then he was just faster than me, but I did almost no errors and he did a lot of them. So yeah, then he was like lost a second because he got into the gravel or something, and then he like got back a bit, but then yeah, he caught up almost every time. So yeah, it was pretty intense.
Definitely, and we could see on the penultimate lap in particular when he first tried to make the move around the outside of you of turn one into turn two. It was a case that he almost got it done, but you were just able to get yourself on the inside of him into turn three. Were you thinking that if you couldn't stay on the inside into turn three, he was going to get it done, or was there a sort of move on for turn four, do you feel?
No, I really felt like I needed to be on the inside there for turn three, because yeah, I knew like he was gonna be next to me into turn one, and I just tried to stay at the inside and manage to stay on the same height as him into turn two, and then like try to hold the place into turn three, because I knew like going around the outside into turn three would be pretty hard for him. So yeah, I just tried to do my best there.
Oh, definitely, and it really worked out. And I do have to wonder, when you guys came up behind, I think it was a Ferrari towards the end of the race, were you screaming out for blue flags by chance? Because it was definitely holding you up a bit.
Yes, exactly. Like, but it was almost the whole race. Like, there were a lot of blue flags, and I feel like the last Ferrari did, and compared to some other people, a pretty good job. But of course, like when you're in the last laps, you just want to like have free space and drive as fast as you can without anyone in front of you.
Oh, definitely. It's always good when you get people out the way straight away. But just taking it away from your battle for P2, in terms of the race itself, how did you find it out there in the Porsche? The Porsche seemed to be the strongest car. Just take us through what it was like.
Yeah, I didn't really expect that the Porsche would be that strong, but I felt like I've driven a pretty high downforce setup. So in the first sector, in like corner three, especially, I had a lot more pace than some other people. And yeah, then overall, I think I didn't expect to be that fast compared to the other. But yeah, I think the overall was pretty decent.
Oh, definitely. Well, it showed. And whilst you weren't on course for the race win, picking up a second place was definitely a solid result. But as for looking forward now to race number 2 next week, how are you feeling for the upcoming combination?
Well, I don't know. I feel like Sanford, I've never actually driven Sanford a lot. And yeah, so I just need to train hard, practice the track, and let's see what happens.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you're able to achieve and whether you can make it back-to-back podiums. But until then, all the best and congratulations once again on a brilliant second place.
Thank you very much.
No problem. All the best, my friend.
Thanks.
Well, with our second place finisher interviewed, and you could see there how Chris was absolutely exhausted by the sounds of things through the battling with Marvin all the way through in that battle for P2, and definitely revelled in that battle to the end, and grateful to hold on that penultimate lap and gave him the ability to be able to hold on for the final lap as well. It's now time to come on to our race winner, Mr. Field. Welcome. Yesfield, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, firstly, congratulations on winning the opening race of the season. How does it feel to be the winner?
It feels great, I have to say. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a tough race. A lot of traffic and yeah, but the car felt great. Also, I had a pretty high downforce setup as Chris Turger. So the first sector was pretty fun to drive and pretty fast, yeah.
And you definitely did look fast. It was an interesting race. So I think at first, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you were gradually building up pressure because you didn't jump straight into the lead. I think you were in P3 for a good chunk of the opening stint, but you started to close up to the leaders gradually over time.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. But I saw the 1 and 2 fighting and I kept coming closer, and yeah, they also had some mistakes, so I went through, and yeah, that's it.
Because that was the one thing that we saw from yourself, particularly in the first stint, was just the level of consistency. It was almost as if everybody around you was making mistakes, but you just seemed you couldn't make a mistake. You were like a machine. The car was just glued to the road because of the downforce setup. Was that what you'd focused on in practice, just making sure there were no mistakes?
Actually, no. I wasn't that happy with the consistency, but yeah, somehow it turned out to be good. And yeah, the practice was like, yeah, I practiced quite a bit, so to minimize the mistakes. But yeah, there were some.
Well, if they were mistakes, I mean, we'd need probably a microscope to look at them because we didn't see them, but that's fair. The one thing I wanted to come on to is after the pit stop, so you went for the undercut, you went early in the pits, and then you got caught in that traffic. I think it was 4 cars battling all the way through Sector 3, and you had the contact with the Bentley coming out of turn 13. Just take us through that moment, because it looked as though that was your race almost over.
Yeah, that's the problem. I had to pit pretty early because I ran out of fuel, and yeah, just caught in the traffic. And I thought the Bentley was giving me space, but that wasn't the case. So yeah, unfortunately, that caused a crash.
It's very unfortunate, but it was fortunate that you're able to keep the car together and to keep it pushing. Just with regards to that, so we heard that, I believe it was our race leader at the time, started to have issues with his steering wheel, because I think you were in P2 at that point. What was going through your head when you saw the race leader was starting to fall back to you and he just lost the place?
Yeah, also I saw he didn't pit just in time. So I was a bit confused. And yeah, because yeah, I kept on pushing and I saw he was getting slower, and yeah, it was a great feeling.
Oh dear. And then from that point onwards, in terms of just bringing it home, did you switch off at that point, or was it still sort of, I've still got to give it that 100% all the way home?
And I have to manage the tires, because in the end it was like I didn't know if there was any tire left, because it felt like it was driving on the rims. So it was pretty loosey-goosey, I have to say.
I see. Well, still, having finished this race and brought it home safely, what are you thinking for race number 2 next week when we head off to Zandvoort?
Actually, I'm pretty afraid, because as Chris Trigger, my teammate, I haven't driven it much yet. So yeah, it will be interesting.
Well, we'll definitely have to wait and see whether you're able to make it 2 out of 2, or at least make it 2 podiums out of 2 races. But until then, congratulations once again on the race win, and enjoy it, my friend. Enjoy the victory.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our post-race podium interviews. 3 very happy podium finishers, and you could hear there from the race winner, from Yves Field, just pleased to get the car home, and it was a difficult race for him by sounds of things, running the setup, which is all about the downforce. It particularly had to keep the car together, but at the same time as well, having to manage those tyres, a very difficult one. We saw that with the Porsche drivers. Whilst it was a strong car, it really did seem to tear its tyres down by comparison with the other cars behind, particularly say the Bentleys and also the Aston Martins. But still, all three finishers there, having had strong races, and now we really look forward to next week. So with that, thank you very much for watching tonight. If you do want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community or this series, why not check out the official racing website, iNextGen Racing. That's www.nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, the official Facebook group, that's Next Gen Racing on Facebook. Also, a huge thank you to our main partner for the event, the SimGrid, and also a thank you to our partner, Coach Dave Academy, who's not listed on here, but is supporting us as well. And last but not least, we've now got to look forward to next time, round 2, Zandvoort. Who's going to be the winner there? Well, you'll have to wait a week, but expect us to be back same time on the 29th of June for more racing action. But until then, I've been Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit in a Spit. Thank you very much for tuning in, and remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and stay on track. Good night.